We are reporting to you back from Muppet Moment HQ. That is distinct because last episode we were at the Waffle House. This episode we're back in the HQ because the two of us we got banned from Disney World. We fought people at the gate. We were so mad about the closure of a particular ride. We were thrown out kicking and screaming. So now Will and Max are back in Muppet Moment HQ, and
I'm
we
in
are.
Updates HQ. You can
And
come over. You're welcome over anytime.
I'd love to get a tea, and we'll enjoy the fuck out of it. But we being kicked out of that park by the mouse, getting manhandled and harassed and kicked to the curb because we're so angry about something getting removed and replaced with something else, and then being turned into something even I don't even know. But Will and I, we're back in the HQ. Mickey Mouse has slapped the shit out of us, and we're here to talk about maybe the most emotional, one of the biggest things we've talked about on this podcast so far. Muppet Vision
The
3D.
big MV3D. Again, Max, what an intro. Thank you for that.
Guys,
Welcome
we're
back to
back.
Muppet Moment. As Max has made you all aware, we staged, it was a bit late, to be honest with you. Our organization was pretty poor, but we did
Eh,
stage a protest for the closure of
yeah.
Muppet Vision 3D. It turns out that that kind of already happened a while ago. Nobody else turned up except
Yeah.
for us, and it was really embarrassing. They were able to overpower us and like union bust us pretty easily.
We fully tried to do like the January 6th playbook. Like we were storming Hollywood studios kind of beat. And we
Yeah.
fully believed that our Muppet Moment audience had gotten the word that we were like doing that. But now we have quite literally been curb stomped by someone in a goofy costume. So with that having happened, I think it has informed us very well on Muppet Vision, Disney, and the entirety of the Muppet Courtyard Hollywood studio shit.
True. And after having what we thought was going to be a really successful day, we were going to storm the theater, rescue all the animatronics, and rescue all the effects, and ended up breaking to what was ended up being like a halfway done construction site.
Yeah.
It kind of really humbled us, sent us back to our roots, sent us down a little bit of a path of research. And so I feel like we're now pretty equipped to talk about Muppet Vision 3D, the late great Muppet Vision 3D.
Oh, may it rest in peace. Muppet Vision 3D. All jokes aside, like trying to do a bit intro aside, whatever. Muppet Vision 3D is something that I adore. I know Will adores, and it's one of the most, I think, important pieces of Henson media. I'm so beyond excited to talk about this. Like Muppet Vision, I when we were talking beforehand, before getting this episode in, it's like words. It's hard for me to eat. We're gonna talk for a long time, but words are hard for me to even articulate for how much I love Muppet Vision. It is truly one of the most impactful, most generational, biggest pieces of Henson media. So this is gonna be a big one for us to tackle, I think.
Truthfully, like Muppet Vision is one that we've wanted to do since before we like had recorded our first episode. We knew we wanted to do a Muppet Vision episode. And we feel like now that it's sort of predecessor, not no, not its predecessor, its successor is just around the corner. At time of recording, it's a matter of weeks before the re-theme of the Rock and Roller Coaster opens, that we thought that we would just sort of give a sort of final, like Viking funeral, sending the
Yeah.
body down in a longboat and firing a flaming arrow into the funeral pyre of Muppet Vision 3D, because it's
Yeah.
truly like a gone but not forgotten thing. Because we just had the anniversary of it opening like not too long ago, just less than a week ago for us at time of recording. And it's clear that there's still such, despite the fact that it's gone now and it's bulldozed and there's like no trace of it anymore, it's still
Ugh.
so present in the hearts and minds of Muppet fans that we're still willing to show our love and adoration for it even a year after it's gone now.
We are all mourning and grieving the loss of Muppet Vision 3D. The last day was I'll get into my experiences with the last day and such, but in a general sense, for how it impacted the Muppet community and like fans of the Muppets in general, it really tugged at people's heartstrings, and where that flaming send off Viking arrow, by that Michael Eisner shaped arrow, just fucking stabbed the hearts of all Muppet fans. The Muppet Vision 3D was, in my eyes, beyond a theme park attraction. I obviously am so biased. We are so biased for our love of the Muppets. But in terms of my experiences going on it as a kid, like going to it on the last day, it being a seminal piece of Henson's career, quite literally the last major project that Jim Henson ever worked on, you feel it in every ounce of Muppet Vision that this is so special and beyond the general, like, regular theme park experience. You're quite literally stepping onto the final legacy of one of the greatest creatives in history.
I think that's a good reason why it was such a big deal when it closed because like the nature of theme parks, especially Disney, is that rides like outstay their welcome and they have to be sort of laid out to pasture and sort of rethemed. Like if we talk about even some of the recent ones like Dinosaur and It's Tough to Be a Bug, we said goodbye
Yeah.
to those in the last year. And it's like there was like a bit of fanfare from like diehard fans, but like it hasn't had quite the same like profoundness of goodbye that Muppet Vision had. And I think it's because Muppet fans really recognize the historical significance of this ride and this attraction and this film on like the legacy of the Muppets and the legacy of Jim as a whole. And I think it's a really good place for us to start with a little bit of a history lesson so we can talk about why it's so important and why Muppet fans were so distraught. Not only because it was kind of the only Muppet representation in the parks, not
Oh
only
yeah.
because it was like
Oh
the
yeah.
first Muppet representation in the parks, but also because it's kind of the closing of a chapter of a book that we really would have loved to stay open.
Oh my God. And to your point, it's like we're getting into this, like the closing of that chapter, but to me this also truly represents what could have been for the Muppets. When I think about Muppet Vision 3D, the history of it, and the kind of context that's surrounded to its opening, I really think of this was Jim at like the peaks of his career, wanting to he was so I'm going to get into the history here on like why it is
Mhm.
so important and like why Muppet fans are so emotional about this, but I just wanted to lay the stage and say that it's extremely important in the timing in which it was happening in Jim Henson's career, the timing of Disney, like as them as a corporation, so many of the other creatives who worked on this project, like Frank Oz and Richard Hunt. This really had so many elements of representing what was supposed to be for Henson, for the Muppets, for the entirety of the team working on it. And I am like emotional already. I got chills when Will was giving like the preamble to this because it really, like, when I think about Muppet Vision, it makes me so emotional. Is there anything you want to say before I kind of just get into what I wrote here about the history of Muppet Vision 3D?
I was gonna say you've got a pretty comprehensive history, which I feel is good to go over just because like I know that like obviously a lot of our audience are like Muppet fans and like Muppet
Yes.
enjoyers, but like when it comes some of us might not be huge theme park heads. Um, and so we kind of like when we talk about a piece of Muppet media, we kind of go in with an inherent expectation that our listeners know exactly what we're talking about,
Yeah.
which we kind of, I think that Max definitely
Maybe.
said it. I think we mutually agreed it's just a little bit unfair sometimes.
Yeah,
Like,
maybe we should give context to the things. I think the last time we explained what the hell we were talking about, like, truly was the Hoobs. Like, because that one most people just didn't know.
I mean, the hoops was kind of like we were sort of looking at things from our own shoes because I knew I had to put you onto it because like it was a first time for you. But with kind of
Absolutely.
everything else that we talk about, like most of it it's like a movie, it's kind of easy to go into.
Yeah.
Like we did like I feel like we did a pretty comprehensive explanation of Treasure Island. I feel like we did well on
It's
that one.
like I just feel like that's one that's existed for so long, over 100 years of that story. A lot of the things we've talked about, it's kind of expected, or at least in our eyes, we just kind of assume that Muppet fans will just kind of know what the hell we're
Hmm.
talking about. But I think by virtue of this being a theme park ride, a lot of the times when I see people talk about Muppet Vision, it's not necessarily Muppet fans engaging with it. It's theme park people or
Hmm.
people interested in learning about shit that and related to like Disney or theme parks. It's a much broader category. Um, and I just think it's extremely important in terms of talking about like our experiences, the impact of the ride, all of this stuff. You have to understand it's such a specific time in Henson history. And so I obviously I think what I just said, I'm going to go into the history of all of this. I if people get mad at me, I have I have the opening date on here. I didn't go hard on like getting every single exact date. You can find that on Muppet Wiki, but I'm going to give us all like a general overview of like what the hell the history of this thing is. So, Muppet Vision 3D opened on May 16th, 1991, but it was obviously in development for years prior. Muppets in the 80s, we can all remember that like that was the time where the Muppets were really at their peak financially, culturally, all of these things. You know, the Muppets original movie came out in 1979, and then throughout the 80s it was just successful movie after successful movie in terms of putting Jim Henson on the map like that. And Jim Henson absolutely, became one of the biggest stars in the world, not just creatively, but just as a person. He was one of the most recognized figures in the entire world. The Muppet Show, the Muppet movies were some of the most, and still to this day, some of the most watched pieces of media fucking ever. So, like, Henson, especially at this point, he had started working with people like George Lucas. He had started working with people like Brian Froud. He had started working with people who were taking him out of these very specific Muppet clutches. I don't know if that's the right terminology, but he was, stepping a little bit outside of the Muppets. Anything you want to add, real quick?
Yeah, just gonna say, so like obviously this was a really successful time for Jim. Like obviously the Muppets had kind of built their foundations in the 70s, and as you said, the 80s were a kind of really peak time for the Muppets, like culturally and financially. Jim was stepping out of his you said clutches. I think I want to say comfort zone.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a better phrasing.
stepping out of his sort of more Muppety comfort zones and sort of taking his creative vision in different directions, particularly with the development of his creature features like Dark Crystal and Labyrinth. But even with more Muppet adjacent stuff towards the end of the 80s with the Jim Henson Hour. Because that was kind of a pioneering for a lot of not only new characters and kind of like solidifying new performers into the cast, like Kevin Clash and Steve Whitmire, and Karen Prell, really like solidifying those guys into the sort of core Muppet cast, but also developing new kinds of puppeteering technologies and working out how those would function in a Muppety context. And speaking of Henson Hour, there was something really important to Muppet Vision that a lot of folks think originated with Muppet Vision 3D, but was actually sort of brought about, sort of, in Henson Hour. And it was the creation of sort of, I don't remember the exact term for it, but it was essentially digital puppetry. It was a
The
puppeteering
Waldo
rig.
technology.
The Waldo. Yes, it is the Waldo rig, I believe, because it was
Yes.
used in Henson Hour and subsequently in Muppet Vision 3D to essentially have a Muppet mouth rig that you could use to puppeteer a completely CGI digital puppet. And so he was really testing the boundaries of what could be done with puppetry and Muppetry. And he, for a really long time, it was kind of known that one of Jim's big dreams with the Muppets was to collaborate with an entertainment giant like the Walt Disney Company.
So I think that like we what to really speak to that as we're getting towards the end of the 80s into the 90s with Henson, he is starting to pull away from Muppet projects. As we touched on, he's doing Labyrinth, he's doing Dark Crystal. He's starting to work with creative figures. I brought up before, George Lucas, that had become also a mega star in terms of that fucking little space movie from the 70s called Star Wars or something. I don't know what the fuck it's called. But he really was starting to pull away, like Fraggle Rock, even though he was the one who like developed that and everything. He really kind of stepped away creatively, and Richard Hunt was like the one who kind of operated the day-to-day goings on at Fraggle Rock. And in terms of Jim Henson, getting towards the end of the 80s and into the 90s, I don't know if I can speak for everyone, but there's kind of this feeling where Henson is not tired of doing Muppets 100%. But Will talked about like this comfort zone. And I think what Jim Henson was always afraid of throughout his career was being boxed in. With the original run of Sesame Street, he kind of distinctly did the Muppet Show to show people that he's not just like a children's educator, not just a children's TV person. And then he did things like Labyrinth and Dark Crystal to show that he's not just a Muppets person. And it was getting to a point though where Jim was starting to not fall apart at the seams, but get very overwhelmed with his personal life and having to run the now megalith of a Henson corporation. In terms of Jim Henson as a creative force, where Jim Henson really like loved and shined and got his like just enjoyment out of doing the Muppets was when he was puppeteering with his best friends, when he was in the booth singing and recording like the chickens squawking and all of that stuff. Jim Henson, it can kind of be said in like a lot of when you look at like different autobiographies about Henson's life, is that he kind of got fed up with having to be. He did not get into this business to be like a CEO of a mega corporation, and so at this distinct point in the, and also with things like Dark Crystal and Labyrinth, he kind of felt like he had to start doing things like Muppet Babies in the 90s and things like that to fund these other bigger creative projects, and having to handle and like legally do everything behind the scenes. Like it just became way too much for Jim Henson. And Will brought up a very good segue to this about how Jim was like trying to step beyond what was expected of him, and was trying to kind of get a little closer to a specific gigantic corporation known as the Michael Eisner era Walt Disney Corporation. Jim Henson really did have an appreciation and respect for Walt Disney in terms of how Disney protected, and obviously, and when I kind of think of this, when people kind of say the whole like, wow, Jim Henson just respected Walt Disney so much for protecting his IPs and making sure that his things were so protected and like well loved and respected throughout the years. I think of two things. One, that's just like copyright law that Disney like lobbied super hard. Jim was just being like, okay, cool, Kermit will never become fair use. Awesome. And two, Disney in the 90s, maybe, like I feel so bad for Jim because he's looking at this corporation in the 90s being like, oh wow, they got the Disney Vault, the early 80s, man. Like late 80s, man. We got all of these like hit classics, Disney Renaissance is coming back. This corporation really knows how to take care of their IPs, and look at us now with the Muppets. So, in the late 80s, early 90s, we talked about Jim Henson being fed up at being a CEO, at being the one handling all of these major, like financial, bigger decisions that aren't in the creative realm. That's not what Jim got into the puppet game for. And so, in the late 80s, Jim Henson was looking to sell the Muppets name to the Walt Disney Company. Now, just think about how fucking massive of a thing that is. The Muppets were and still are, like at this time, were one of the biggest fucking things culturally. Like they came off in the 70s, 80s run. The Muppets were the most watched thing on television. And so
Yeah.
this is like quite literally the biggest thing, like the biggest IP in the world, that the creator behind it, the person who's in charge of it, who loved it, who's seen it through every era since the 50s, is going, I'm going to sell it to the fucking Walt Disney Company. And so Muppet fans at the time and Muppet fans can now look back on in like the hindsight of the future and just go like, what? Whoa, that's crazy. Like
Jim,
Jim,
Jim.
Jimmy. Like, I think that, Jim didn't want to keep continuing having such like like he didn't want to continue the like CEO role like that. He wanted to do creative Muppets. He wanted to do creative decision making again, be like fully like a puppeteer and someone in charge of like making these movies in the full creative sense. And I think unfortunately Jim's desire to do that somewhat blinded him to how the Disney Corporation operates. And I think by initiating the talks with then CEO Michael Eisner, um, you know, there was a lot that happened in regards to Jim Henson's passing that we're about to get into. Like Jim Henson unfortunately passes away pretty soon after this all these talks kind of come into effect. But when I talk about Jim Henson initiating this conversation and why that I think that might have been a mistake, we can agree or disagree on that as like Muppet fans. But Jim Henson potentially selling one of the biggest fucking things in the world to the Disney Corporation, where Michael Eisner at the time is like, he's been successful with the movies, he's been successful with bringing the parks back. He's really kind of brought back an era of Disney Renaissance, but that's come from his like monopolistic sharking of so many different other corporations. Disney bought ESPN and ABC and all of these like different other things and really started the Disney monopoly like that in the 90s. And so when Jim Henson initiated these talks with the Walt Disney Corporation, Michael Eisner and the Disney goons were fucking relentless. They sent their lawyers constantly trying to pressure Jim to sell. And people who were close to Jim at the time, when the Disney talks were happening, when the Muppet Vision kind of the even before Muppet Vision was an idea, when Disney was starting to kind of have these talks with Jim Henson about selling the Muppets, it really became a thing where Jim Henson was constantly being harassed by Disney's lawyers, constantly being asked to sell the Muppets, being pressured by Michael Eisner at all times and their team of lawyers. And I personally think that did contribute to like Jim Henson's passing. Obviously, he passed for medical reasons. But I do think like when you see Jim Henson, how much he aged in just that year between 1989 to like 1991 in that like 2 year span, like it's like fucking when Obama but gets gray at the end of his presidency. It's like the way Disney's lawyers constantly got on him to fucking sell the Muppets, I think does put somewhat of a sour taste in your mouth when you think about like the history of this ride, because it's like, this is Jim Henson's final project before he passed. And to know, like, obviously there's so much beauty around this, and we're going to get into so much beauty in this history with it, but like, that is a part of the history of Muppet Vision that is often greatly overlooked, is that Jim Henson was not willingly just being like, let's give the Muppets to Disney and I'm going to work as hard as I can to like figure out a deal. It was very much like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm going to sell these Muppets because the Disney Corporation is fucking hounding me like crazy. And then he dies. And then the way the Disney Corporation acted is just insane. But like, that's a little spiel about like the somewhat history. I mean, oh, also, I just wanted to briefly say that, Jim Henson felt like he could work with the Disney Corporation because he had done it in the past, specifically collaborating in the parks. He had done the Muppets, they did a Muppets live show. I'm so mad that I'm blanking on the name right now. I cannot believe
Was
I'm
it Here
blanking
Come
on
the
it.
Muppets?
Here Come the Muppets. Thank you. He did Here Come the Muppets. He felt okay working with the Disney Corporation in that regard. And there really there got to a point, though, before Muppet Vision opened, where it seemed like there was like peace within the talks between Henson, Eisner, and the Disney Corporation, where we look back and there's all of these different like plans for a full Muppets courtyard. There's all of these different rides that were supposed to be built. And it seemed like Henson had started to really reach a point where he was like gonna sell the Muppets, and all of these big investments into the Muppets were going to happen. And then Jim Henson passes, unfortunately, and we don't get any of that. And I don't thank you for letting me just rant for a second here. But I think that is all very important context is into what surrounded this ride before it opened to the public.
No, you're absolutely fine. Just to interject a little bit more, in terms of what Jim wanted out of a Disney deal, primarily the thing that he was really after was a connection between the Muppets and the Disney parks. His biggest motivator was wanting to get the Muppets involved in the parks, to have them like obviously like plans came about, and then like Muppet Vision was the first sort of like step in what would become a progressively more there was a planned Muppet like themed area of the park. Obviously, like we can talk about the Great Muppet ride, the Great Muppet movie ride, like in another episode at some point because that's its whole other can of worms. All of the Muppet things that could have been, even before the Disney negotiations start, Jim had like drawn out plans for like a Muppet land that kind
There
of
was supposed, yeah.
looked not dissimilar from like the map that Walter had in Muppets 2011 of like all of the different like Muppet themed areas. It was like that. It was little themed areas for particular Muppets and different Muppet things. Jim wanted a theme park presence for the Muppets really bad. Wanting to like have there be some kind of way of having like the Muppets have like a character interaction thing at the parks. Like that was his big stake was having the Muppets involved in the Disney parks. And so obviously Muppet Vision was the first step in that. There was planned to be a lot more. Something I saw actually in, and obviously I'm going to shout out my source, even though there's absolutely no way this is going to reach those ears. But I saw a Defunct Land video. Love
Heyo.
Defunct Land. Shout out to my boyfriend
Shout
Mikey for
out.
putting me onto Defunct Land. Saw a Defunct Land video about a planned Muppet takeover of I want to say it was either Disneyland or World. I want to say it
Yes.
was
It
Land.
was Disneyland, and the
Mm.
president of Disneyland at the time had just done like a massive anniversary celebration where Mickey and Minnie were partying all year, and the Muppets were supposed to like step in for Mickey and Minnie and be like, "All right, y'all go on vacation. It's Muppet Land now."
Oh, you know the one I'm talking about then.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know the one. There was supposed to be the Muppets were supposed to essentially like be like have stewardship of Disneyland for a whole year, and there was going to be Muppet theming just kind of draped over Disneyland for an entire year following the huge anniversary celebration because Mickey and the gang were all on a cruise. And there were huge plans for a Muppet presence at the park, but obviously because Jim passed before Muppet Vision got like installed in the park, like it was all made and like all the plans were put into place, but Jim never got to see it actualized. And then obviously the plans, or rather the deals, then got sort of inherited by his children, who kind of took on the Henson Company from there. Um,
So I want to say that like that's all super important context as to like we were so damn close to all of that. Like Muppet Disneyland Takeover, Muppet Great Movie Ride, like Gonzo Restaurant, all of these fucking things. This whole Muppet Courtyard and takeovers and all of these things were so close to happening. But as Will just said, Jim Henson passes, and the talks really sour because the Henson children were not happy with how the Disney Corporation harassed and constantly went on their dad about selling the Muppets to the point in which the like the Henson children did not want to sell the Muppets to the Disney Corporation. But specifically at this time, Muppet Vision, because as Will said, that was like kind of the precursor that was supposed to be before all of this other Muppet stuff. This was supposed to be like the first bit of Muppet presence in the park like that. Muppet Vision was already underway recording before Henson passed. Like they fully had been like recording the scenes, they had fully been like developing this project, and they had reached a deal where they had not sold the Muppets to Disney, but they at least licensed the Muppet name for Muppet Vision and licensed the theming for that. But once Jim Henson passes, that all sours. And the only reason we got Muppet Vision 3D and why it didn't get lost to time like all of the other Muppet projects that were supposed to happen is just because it was like already in production. If it wasn't already in production before Henson passes, I do not think we would have gotten Muppet Vision. I think it put Disney in a position where obviously the Henson kids are like, fuck you guys, we're taking the Muppets back. Like, we're not doing this shit. We're not doing the entirety of all these things. You did not respect our dad, all of that. But then the Disney Corporation, they opened this ride on May 16th, 1991, on the anniversary of Jim Henson's passing. It was very much Disney was now put in a position where they're like, fuck, we had all these plans to do all this Muppet stuff, and we now are getting no Muppet stuff because of how we treated fucking Jim Henson. And so I fully think that they opened the ride on the death anniversary to kind of be like, yeah, like we were trying to respect Henson and his life and all of that shit when they had not done that. I don't think.
It definitely reads publicly as like, oh, we're doing a tribute to Jim. And like it was kind of one of the first big outings for Steve Whitmire's Kermit as well, because they did a press event where he was like in the little security office and like greeting guests and like greeting the press. And so like they definitely did like a big rollout for this for this new attraction. But it yeah, I can't help but feel a little bit sort of eerie about it, especially because they spent the next like nearly like 15 years harassing and hounding the new custodians of the Henson Company until they finally caved and sold the Muppets after like so long of just being like hounded by lawyers and like they there was like distribution deals and stuff. There was like an alliance between Disney and the Muppets, but it was shaky. And then like they were worn down and like who wouldn't be? Disney are a relentless machine. And like despite our best desires, can and will get what they want. And so unfortunately, the what could have been for the Muppets was cut short, and the only remnant of that that we really had and had for a long time was this attraction, Muppet Vision 3D. And oh my gosh, considering the quality of this attraction and the theming and everything surrounding it, we could have had it all.
As we've kind of talked about with the things we didn't get with Muppet Courtyard, the surrounding drama of the Henson deal to sell the Muppets, the eventual selling of the Muppets, and then you know how Jim Henson was like, I want to work with Disney because they respect their IP, and then they have like done jack shit with the Muppets since owning them. Um, you kind of have all of this context, and then you know, if you had never heard of Muppet Vision, if you had never like gone on that ride, if this was a completely new concept to you, maybe you'd hear the kind of background of the opening and be like, "Ugh, what the fuck came of this thing?" What we got out of Muppet Vision 3D, out of Jim's final vision, the quite literal final thing Jim Henson ever worked on before he passed, we got something so, so, so special, something that I cherish so deeply, something that I think is one of, if not like the seminal piece of Henson's career. I am so happy we're talking about Muppet Vision because it's incredible. It's one of the best things ever made at a Disney park.
I mean, obviously not to show our bias here. I didn't know if you
We
knew this
are.
about us, but we are somewhat fond of the Muppets. Um,
Maybe.
Having heard this from like theme park people as well, and people who aren't that into the Muppets but love the Disney parks. Like, for example, shortly after I went for the first time, my boyfriend Mikey and his friend Foster went on a trip to Disney, and they actively sought out to go to Muppet Vision and like properly experience it. Like, just objectively, especially when you consider all the context of everything that went into it, when you look at Muppet Vision and you sit down in those seats and you see it all unfold in front of you, come on. It's one of the best attractions that the park's ever had.
It's fucking phenomenal. Like we could have gotten the whole Henson fucking courtyard with all of these Muppet things. We could have gotten the Disney takeover, but what we got was a little sliver of Hollywood studios, just like the smallest sliver with the Muppet Vision 3D show building that perfectly, and we'll get into all the details, but in my eyes, does the most perfect recreation of the Muppet Theater that I think we will ever get. And you have that like beautiful, beautiful, meticulously made Muppet Theater. You have outside the gorgeous Miss Piggy fountain that is on Will's shirt. You have all of these things. You eventually get Pizza Rizzo. You eventually get a little more theming. But what we got was this little sliver. And that sliver of Hollywood studios is like, was my most beloved place beyond my biases towards the Muppets. Like, I truly think that that little corner of the park was so, so representative of a time of true creativity and joy and a time of like so much creative freedom that the Disney Corporation does not much have anymore. And it was a beautiful, beautiful time capsule of this era of Henson.
Now, up until this point in the episode, we've kind of broken our form a little bit because what we usually do is we have a back and forth. But what we've kind of done up until this point is we've just kind of given information to you and not really had much of like a going back and forth between me and Max. And so to mark this sort of changing now, again, sorry to our listeners, but to our visual viewers, you notice that I'm wearing a pair of official, mind you, Muppet Vision 3D glasses that I obtained through absolutely legal means. 100%.
Yeah,
I definitely didn't swipe them. I didn't swipe them at all, but
no,
I'm sick of
because
wearing them
you're not
now.
allowed to.
I'm sick of wearing them. Yeah, you're not allowed to take them, so I never would. I didn't
Of course not.
I didn't just like hold them by my side and look like I put them in the bin when in actuality I put them in my bag. That never happened.
I'll be real. I took like six of those fucking things when
I
I was like there the last time. I took so many.
these okay, see this pair that I hold in my hands is kind of it's very special to me because these are the glasses that I wore the first time I ever saw it, when I went on
Mm,
that trip last January. So these are significant to me. They have pride of place in my collection, and they will always be significant to me and cherished by me.
but
But
you can't be wearing them the whole goddamn episode.
I'm sick of wearing them now. I feel like it doesn't show me emoting at all. I promise I have been invested. You just can't see it because of my eyes.
Ah,
But I'm gonna take them off now, and we're gonna get into actually like talking about our feel. We've talked about like
dude,
it's been mostly facts, but
we've been going
in the
facts over feelings,
I
bro.
was gonna say, in the words of Sam Eagle, facts don't care about your feelings.
Exactly.
So we are we're gonna talk a little bit about the actual
Feelings.
our
We're gonna
feelings
go into our
towards it.
feelings,
Because oh my goodness, I
dude.
so I wasn't raised like we weren't a Disneyland family. I went to Disney for the first time when I was 19
Mm,
and it was on a trip with university. And that was Disneyland. I'd never been to Disney World before in my life before January of 2025. I never spent much time at the Disney parks, but I had been to Disneyland a couple of times before going to World last year. And like one thing you have to say about the Disney parks is that they go heavy on theming. Having
yeah.
been to Galaxy's Edge and having been to Avengers Campus and Pixar Pier and the sort of Tomorrowland area. Um, like they love a good theme. They love a good themed area, and they
Like
go hard on it.
say what you want about the Disney Corporation, but like why I fucking enjoy going to the parks and like the times I have been is because I love being in a hyper detailed, immersive themed land. It's a very enjoyable thing. And I'll give it to Disney. They do that very well.
They do, and it's down entirely to the Imagineering team. Just like incredibly talented people who just love putting 110% in clearly. Because I will say that, like, obviously showing my bias again, I really think the theming of the Muppet area is some of the best that they ever did in the parks.
Oh my God, yeah. Some of the I mean, like all the details, of course, like a lot of these details that are important to us will maybe be missed on the average theme park goer. But in terms of just like the visual appeal of the Muppet Courtyard, the Muppet Vision 3D ride itself, and all of the surrounding things, like I felt so convinced that I am in an area run by the Muppets. I felt the whimsy of it so much more often than like sometimes you're at Disney and you like are in a specific place and you're like when you're on It's a Small World and you look up and it's just like office fucking tiles on the ceiling and it like you kind of feel like am I just like in an office building like slowly moving with all these like random like fucking things. Muppet Vision was not that, and Muppet Courtyard was not that. This was like truly, truly like the Muppets run this. Kermit lives in that apartment over there. Rizzo's running that fucking pizza shop. You're living in the world of the Muppets right now.
As you put it perfectly, it truly feels like you're stepping into that world. Just because of the sheer amount of just like little details that they put in, like just to paint you a picture of how it was sort of in its final days. And you step in there and like you've got the piggy statue in the front with the little rats on
Mm.
the gondola, people throwing in pennies. You've got even just like the building itself with Gonzo
Ugh.
hanging off of the clock on the clock tower.
The big marquee that says Muppet Vision 3D, like the real Muppet Theater.
the big neon sign for Pizza Rizzo that occasionally like flickers, and instead of being like the city's top rated pizza, it's rat pizza. Um, and even just like walking around and like the first time that I went. Okay, so I'm gonna talk a little bit about my first time going, if I may.
Yeah, I just want to say that, like, before you get into that, with
Hmm.
your connection to going to the parks in terms of like, uh, been like Disneyland, Muppet Vision is something I never experienced. Like, but the time I grew up going to the parks in Florida to a degree because like my grandparents lived in Florida. My parents and my family certainly are not like Disney corporate fucking lovers. Like, we were
Yeah.
not sitting there like, yes, we love the corporation. Hell yeah. But by virtue of my grandparents living hella close to Orlando, it was like there a lot. We ended up going a good amount of times.
Yeah. Um, because like I had a very loose connection with the parks. I'd only been to Disneyland a couple of times. I went out. It was shortly after the announcement was made that Muppet Vision 3D was going to be closing. They hadn't been given a date yet. We just knew that it was going to be early 2025. We were on borrowed time. I spent a really unpleasant amount of money so that I could fly out to Florida to go to Disney World for the very first time in my life. And I was only able to do this from the grace and generosity of some of my wonderful friends, who I will shout out. First of all, my friend Alyssa, whose apartment I stayed at, turns out in Jacksonville. She lives like 2 hours away from Orlando, and I didn't know how Florida was laid out beforehand. So we got a 2 hour Uber up to Disneyland at
Oh
like
my
7 in the morning.
fucking God.
Yep.
The fuck is wrong with y'all?
We listen, I didn't know how Florida was mapped out.
That is classic. Like the World Cup's about to happen here in Seattle, and I've already had so many Europeans being like, "So I can stay in fucking Spokane and then fucking just come to Seattle, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's 5 hours away." Well, hey, fucking the European mind of the distances of states is off, in my opinion.
Well, then you got to counter with the American mind,
That is true.
specifically in the way of
Yeah.
architects of how cities should be built. And
No, 80 lane highway, fucking strip mall, strip mall.
well, that's going to be for our later episode where we just
Gonna be
go
about
into
our
the sort of socio-political differences
Yeah, our
between the.
Jacksonville episode where we talk about the city planning of the city of Jacksonville. But you're with Alyssa, who I met in New York, who's wonderful. Like you guys are taking an Uber from fucking Jacksonville.
We're taking an Uber from Jacksonville at the crack of dawn. Literally, like the sun has not risen when we are going. It's January.
Insanity.
The weather is temperate, and we get there, and like again, it's expensive going to Disney, right? It is a privilege. I
Yes.
was lucky enough to be able to get guest tickets from two of my pals who worked at the park. I'm gonna shout out my friends Matt and Alice,
Heyo.
who work at Disney World, who were able to use a guest ticket to get me in. That was
Oh, that's fucking
wonderfully kind of
awesome.
them. I then proceeded to waste it by only going to one of the parks the entire time I was there. I did not leave Hollywood Studios. I still not seen Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, Epcot. Don't know what they look like. Don't know how they function. Don't know a single thing about them. I spent my
Oh no,
entire day in
don't care.
Hollywood.
No Muppets.
Nope. I was only there for Muppets. That's it. That's all I cared about being there for.
As you should.
And so my first time I spent the whole day in Hollywood Studios, and I don't regret a second of it. I We got in there and I was actually really nervous to go straight up to Muppet Courtyard, so we just wandered around a little bit. I went on Star Tours once before I even thought about going to the courtyard, because it was just like it's such a terrifying thing. It was like I felt like I was on a religious pilgrimage. It was like, oh my God, this is like the end of my journey. Here's like the point of me being here. I'm nervous. I'm
It's
scared.
like we have had the privilege to go to the MoMI. We have had the privilege of
Mm,
going to the Center of Puppetry Arts. We've gone to these locations that are like important in terms of like Muppet Henson history. But Muppet Vision 3D, as we have said throughout this podcast, is Henson's final project before he passed. The last major thing Richard Hunt worked on before he
exactly.
unfortunately passed as well. This when Muppet fans talk about going to Muppet Vision 3D, it is so beyond just like, this is a thing that the Muppets are in, and it's like a fun ride that's unfortunately closing. Like, no, this is like you are seeing the very last thing Henson made that is going away forever.
Yeah, it really just felt it was like a last chance to see type thing. And that's why I think it was so intimidating. Before I did end up going to the courtyard, we went to the it's now Mickey and Minnie's Runaway, whatever it is. Uh
Oh, the great movie ride.
the great movie, right? I just know it as the Chinese Theater.
Wait, was
Um
it still the great movie ride when you? I was like,
no, it was only last year that I went.
oh fuck,
Um I was 24 years old when I saw Muppet Vision for the first and last time.
I love
Um
that.
it was Mickey and Minnie by that point, but they still had the hand marks of folks in the concrete out in front of the theater. And I before going to the courtyard, I paid a visit because Jim Henson had his handprints immortalized in the concrete out the front of that theater, as well as Kermit the Frog. There
Yes.
his little flippers were imprinted in the concrete, and that was a really emotional
And
moment.
the classic Jim Henson signature etched into the sidewalk, like that is beautiful.
I had to sort of like take 10 minutes and have a little bit of a cry when I went down there because I put my hands in his hands and they
Oh,
like his hands were the same size as mine, and that for some reason just like set me off, set me going.
dude,
Um
my hand could go into Kermit perfectly.
oh yeah, when I say that my hands were the same size as I meant the Kermit puppets. My hands were the same size as the Kermit puppets.
Yeah, of
But
course.
no, yeah, I just got really emotional about that, and it just really felt like marking like this was what I was doing here. And then we went to the courtyard and we had to take 3 laps of it. On my request, we had to take 3 laps of the entire courtyard, soaking up every single detail before we were allowed to set foot in Muppet Vision.
I think when you walk into Muppet Vision, like when you walk into the courtyard, it is like stepping into this Henson-y world, this whimsical thing fully made from the creative vision of the Muppet team that had just spent their whole careers like becoming the incredible Muppet like people that they were. And this is the last thing that they did. And so when you step into Muppet Courtyard, you are hit with all of these emotions and you notice all of these different details. It's not something that you could just walk into and be like, all right, I'm going right on the ride and I'm getting out of here.
Hmm.
A Muppet fan coming all the way from the UK to experience this is not gonna just get in and get out. There's a lot to fucking take in.
It was so beautiful, and there was so much to just sort of ooh and ah and point at. Even from like the newer editions being sort of like as you come in on your left hand side are the newer buildings that were installed after the sort of like the Muppet revival of the early 2010s.
Yes.
You had Gonzo's Royal Flush bathrooms, which I did use. And
Yeah,
yeah, I had to go
the
to the
executive
Gonzo piss
use
about it.
toilet showroom.
And obviously the world-renowned Pizza Rizzo restaurant, which okay, we're planning in the future to do an episode where we go over our Muppet hot takes.
Yes, that is a future thing.
I'm gonna start off with one right now. I'm just gonna skip ahead to it. Every single fucker talking about there about how, oh yeah, we love Pizza Rizzo, but the food's not good.
No. Oh my God. Can we? Okay. I'm so glad you just brought this up. I went into this fucking Pizza Rizzo shit being told, oh, it's going to make you shit your pants. Oh, it's so disgusting. It's like the grossest. It was fine. It wasn't incredible pizza, but it was fine.
I was expecting like garbage food. You're
I was
trying to tell
expecting
me
like
your
cafeteria
constitutions are
pizza.
so weak you can't handle mid pizza? Like, come on.
Dude, the amount of people, I think the fucking commitment guys talked about this exact same thing where they were like, everyone said we were going to get diarrhea before we ate the fucking Pizza Rizzo shit. I don't know how fucking weak your guys' stomachs are, but like, that was all perfectly fine. I ended up eating a, dare I say, fair amount of Pizza Rizzo on the last day of Muppet Vision because it was the last time to get it. And I think I ate like 5 fucking little Pizza Rizzo pizzas and I was fine.
I was gonna say I gotta confess that I sort of let gluttony take hold in the
I
pizza
was
restaurant.
housing those pizzas.
I destroyed one of those pizzas. I went back a few hours later for one of those meatball subs.
Yes.
Every time I passed the place, I had to get one of those frozen non-alcoholic peach bellinis.
Of course, of course. I also just want to say, I was hoping Muppet fans would be smarter than the general Disney public because when you go to Disney, people wait in these crazy fucking lines to go get their food. When if you mobile order it, you get it in like 2 minutes. And every fucking food service spot at Disney, I'm watching all of these like hordes of people wait like hours for their food. I thought I had to show multiple Muppet fans, like, hey, you don't have to wait in that line. You can just fucking do it on your phone. Come on, Muppet fans.
I mean, to be fair, your time on Muppet Vision last year was probably a lot busier than mine because I went before there was any kind of gathering.
No, that's
I
true.
was there on a Wednesday morning on a relatively gray day, so I managed to get away with ordering organically and speaking to a
Oh
human
yeah.
being
It
about it.
was it was it was tough for me. There was too many Muppets in that fucking thing.
I will say that the highlight for me, weirdly, about Pizza Rizzo, and you can judge me for this if you want, but they had these little paper cups with little Caesar salads in them. Every time you ordered a food item, they gave you a little Caesar salad in a cup.
They
Man,
were
I must
pretty
have destroyed
fucking
five.
good.
I must have destroyed like five or six of those things because I was with pals and they would order something and they wouldn't want the Caesar salad.
Give me that.
Give
Give
me
me
that.
that.
Give me that.
Give me that.
I'm
I'm
joking.
joking. Muppet Vision, Will just said he went to Pizza Rizzo on a pretty balmy day. But when I
Hmm.
went, what I loved about Pizza Rizzo's, and not to divert your whole thing, but like I was just gonna say that they have really nice fans set up, or they did have nice fans set up on the outside. It was a very hot July day when I went, or June day, I mean, when I went in the past, and it was just, oh my God, Pizza Rizzo's came in clutch.
Pizza Rizzo was just a really nice environment. The inside was decorated really nicely. When it's the upstairs and just like I loved the sort of like commitment to the theming of it being kind of just sort of like a kind of divey Italian
Yeah.
restaurant. I really liked in the back corner the kind of caricature drawings of the Muppets, including like some of the
Yes.
night era Muppets. I was like, I wasn't expecting that.
That was crazy. Yeah, they had fucking so many kind of deep cut Muppet pulls on the wall.
Oh my goodness. And my favorite like themed area of Pizza Rizzo though, like the wedding dining hall.
Yeah, the fucking big fat Greek wedding type like ballroom. I love the joke that they have going into it where it's like capacity like 60 people or 8,000 rats.
Yeah. I would the music that was playing in like the wedding hall, it was all music that I'd be like, yeah, this is music that the Muppet Rats listen to. It was just so much like you get the theming. It was like Earth, Wind, and Fire, and it was
Yeah.
basically like the playbook for like all the rejected tracks from Muppets from Space. Basically.
Yeah. I
Like
I think what was so pleasing to me about Pizza Rizzo and going there, because as we can relate on this, is that I never experienced Pizza Rizzo growing up. It had been a very long time since I had been to Disney. And last time I had been there, it was still Pizza Planet. So the first and last time I had ever gone was on my trip. And I felt like the theming was so on point because I'm sure some people, again, who are a little less tuned in on the Muppets, would just kind of be like, it's a quick service Disney restaurant with like loose theming about like this rat who likes pizza. But when you're like a Muppet fan who fucking like understands Rizzo and his whole character, his whole shit with food, his whole thing with all the Muppet rats largely, like the older ones being like Florida tourists and fucking Muppet Treasure Island, it's like, you have this perfect thing where it really feels like, yeah, this feels like the fucking Muppet Rats opened up a restaurant. It's tacky Italian theming in a very earnest, charming way, where it feels like Rizzo was like, yeah, we opened this shit in Los Angeles. These fucking idiots don't know shit about New York. Just throw some fucking photos of New York on there.
it's like it just so like the Muppet Rats themselves have such a strong like identity in terms of what they bring to the Muppets that it was enough to base an entire restaurant theme off of, and the fact that they did it successfully, it's like absolute cinema.
It's
But like
rat
even just
pizza.
just like the little phrases written on all the garbage cans and like the big mural outside, you got the dough, we got the cheese. Like you can hear that and you read that and you hear it in your
Hey,
head in Rizzo's voice. It's just like and There were so many just like little details in there that it's impossible to like remember them all. But like the big ones that stood out to me were there was only because we mentioned it in a prior episode, there was a plaque that had like the winners of a pizza eating contest that ended
Yes.
up being used temporarily as a prop in the Muppet
Yes.
Show reboot. Um,
Um,
there
my
was
all-time favorite reference in the entirety of Muppet
Are you about
Courtyard
to say the one I was
sits.
thinking of?
Is it the fucking Emmett Otter's Jug Band
Yes, it
Christmas?
is. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, our
Oh my God,
minds.
y'all.
Our minds.
Whoever fucking Imagineer or set designer or whatever fucking worked on Pizza Rizzo's, they must have been a huge, huge Muppet fan. All of these people involved. Because what the fuck do you mean in the year 2025? I walk into a thing at the at Disney World, like this big Disney corporate thing, and I go into the Rizzo fucking restaurant, and they have a little fucking like a bulletin board, and on there they have a fucking Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas, like Pa Otter memorial sign. Like, are you kidding?
Simultaneous, like I think they alternate the
Almost
signage
cried
as
thinking
well.
about that.
No, listen, it's such a beautiful detail, and it's like you didn't have to do that, but the fact that you did shows me that you cared about the theming here, because it's
Yes.
simultaneous. Like that's only you only see the part auto reference if you look closely, because the main
Mm-hmm.
reference on there is a Muppets Take Manhattan reference. So
Yes, the
like,
Bill and Jill and Lil fucking
yeah, like
film.
all of the ill frogs and like their wedding services, like the marriage of like Bill and Jill and like best man Gil, best like and like like come on. It's just like
That kind
somebody
of
who fucked heavy with the Muppets worked on this, and you can tell in every little facet of the theming.
like that's exactly I think why Muppet Vision and the entirety of Muppet Courtyard is so emotional and special to so many Muppet fans is because it's not just like Disney slapped a Kermit on something and did like kind of lazier Disney theming that you're starting to see now with like other projects. What you had even in 2016, because Pizza Rizzo's was a later addition to Muppet Courtyard, you clearly had creatives involved in these projects who fucking cared enough about the Muppets to throw in references to Emmett Otter and Muppets Take Manhattan and these things that, again, the general Disney puppet public are mostly gonna like gloss over. But those things, like that's like when people talk about going to Disney and like why they enjoy the Disney parks, it's like it's hard to get like someone in my age here in Seattle to understand why I actually have like nostalgia and some enjoyment for going to these parks because it's like it's that shit. If it wasn't the most hyper specific like details that would matter to the people who are fans of these like specific IPs, then I wouldn't give a shit about going. But the fact that they put this much effort in made it so much more emotional and brought me like to like real fucking emotion in tears when I'm seeing these Muppet references.
Pizza Rizzo as a restaurant was incredibly well themed. And like obviously we just talked about all of the details that we loved about it, but there's one detail on it that like I genuinely I had to like there were a few moments where I had to take a bit of time on my trip to just get a little bit emotional. One
Oh
of
yeah.
them was obviously going to the Jim hand prints in the concrete.
Mhm.
But the other one was that as we were leaving Pizza Rizzo, we'd gotten our food. The last time that I went to Pizza Rizzo, we were on our way out, and there was a shelf above the exit door. There were shelves across the wall that had just sort of like various, like it was like pizza ingredients on there.
Yeah.
There's like a Parmesan grater and like jars of marinara sauce. There was a shelf that had a bunch of assorted bottles and stuff on it. And the thing that made me like really tear up was that there was an old Wilkins coffee can on the
Oh,
shelf above the exit door,
such a good Henson reference right there.
which is just the
Mm.
ultimate deep cut. Again, we're gonna do a little bit of context for just like for everybody. Jim Henson kind of really got his start in Muppetry and puppetry doing advertisements, and his really big break, and probably the one that he's most well known for from his sort of advertising era, is these two little characters that he made for an ad campaign for a Wilkins brand coffee. Wilkins and Wokins. These two little puppets were with one of them always killing and maiming the other in vicious ways because of his disinterest in buying Wilkins coffee.
Oh, you won't drink Wilkins coffee? I'm here to fucking murder you. That was every sketch.
Oh, gee, you want to try some Wilkins coffee? I never tasted it. And then he like drops a hydrogen
Wow.
bomb on him.
Wow.
Something
Yeah,
vicious happened to him
exactly.
because he didn't want to drink that brand of coffee. And
The most
that's
tortured Muppet soul is Wontkins, quite frankly.
literally, it's Beaker and Wontkins. They're like this.
Oh yeah.
Um, but it's just like little details like that. Like obviously you could have gotten away without putting a reference like that in there, but it just shows that like the Imagineers working on this Muppet stuff, working on a Muppet theming for a to-go food restaurant, they
Yeah.
cared so much, and that bled through into literally every other part of the courtyard.
A thing that I want to point out specifically about Pizza Rizzo's, because again, both Will and I had never experienced it until we were like in like full ass grown adults, like way later, like on like the closing final days of it. But comparing it to what it was when I was a child, with the last time I had went to Disney before this Muppet Vision trip to go to the last day, it was still Pizza Planet. And when you watch Toy Story, like Pizza Planet is this fucking like megaplex. It's like, oh my God, it has all these like rides and games, and it's like it's blows your mind. It's like I want to go to fucking Pizza Planet. But when you go at Disney, it was so poorly themed. I think the pizza actually was worse than the Pizza Rizzo pizza because that stuff is fine. And it was just like they slapped some arcade machines and like a lightly themed Toy Story thing. And I remember even as a kid thinking to myself, like, this isn't the arcade from fucking Pizza Planet. And so when you compare that to Pizza Rizzo's, I spent my time at Pizza Rizzo's thinking to myself, like, yeah, this feels like a restaurant Rizzo would own. This
Hmm.
feels like something that the Muppet Rats are running right now. Like, this does not feel like a loosely slapped together, lightly themed, like Toy Story, whatever. It just felt like, yeah, like the Muppets run a restaurant, and it's specifically the Muppets Rats, and you can tell in every ass. And also, I will say, the pizza not being like it's theme park pizza. It's gonna be what it tastes like. But like I think the virtue of it being like kind of mid pizza is earnest like Rizzo would. Do you think Rizzo's fucking serving like the best pizza in the country? Like, no, Rizzo's gonna cut some corners and get like the cheapest thing out to you. I'm so sorry.
I think because like the food, like obviously when you like center around a character, like having it all be Italian stuff like works. If we're talking about just like food theming for Muppet stuff, we obviously have Rock and Roller Coaster coming out soon, and there have been more and more
Yes.
announcements about what's to come. And they've got food by Swedish
Food.
Chef that has been announced as kind of like the snack stand for this sort of new like courtyard area, not Muppet Courtyard. I hesitate to call it
Yeah.
that, but this new Muppet themed courtyard. I feel like we'd be remiss to say that in terms of the food for food,
Food.
the theming of the actual food items, it's better.
Yeah.
There's an animal like coated churro, and it's like that's fun.
I do
Kermit
like the
and
swamp
Piggy like
juice.
themed drinks. I want that swampy juice. I want
That's
to
why
take
it
it.
looks like a Muppet Marg, like literally.
Shout out to
Shout out
Nico,
Nico,
Chula
Chula
Vista
Vista
Muppet. I'm
Muppet.
bringing, you know what I've got actually right here? I've got
Oh,
my little ice cube. I can't get it. Oh, there we go. It's
that's an
green.
actual ice cube from a Muppet Margarita. Oh my
I'm
God.
taking this that Nico gave me in Atlanta and I'm putting it in like a Kermit like swamp juice and I'm making that
Fuck
into
yeah.
a boba pearl Muppet Marg.
I just think that like we got some pretty good Muppet themed food items coming out of this little food stand at the quote unquote Muppet Courtyard that we're getting. But if you want to sit here and ask me like if that is even in comparison to like what we had before, an entire sit down 2-story restaurant themed to the Muppets with specific details for Muppets Take Manhattan and obscure projects like Emmett Otter. What the fuck? We were at such peak. We had it so good.
I I mean obviously having like a food stand be Swedish chef themed, it makes sense
That's
naturally.
very, yeah, 100%.
But I don't know. Like the Bunsen and Beaker theming that they do at the Epcot Food and Wine Festival, that's pretty good.
Well, for me, it's like I think that like often with Muppet themed things, I think Disney's desires is just like, well, it's fucking Kermit, make it green, it's Piggy, make it pink, whatever. Like what I
Mm,
appreciated about Pizza Rizzo, obviously it's just like general Italian offerings because it's supposed to be like a fake Italian restaurant. But I don't know, like the thought of what I like about Pizza Rizzo is not just like they don't do anything to it to make it more than it actually. Obviously, it's like the theme comes from the Muppet. I
mm,
think it would have been really cute to have something very specific associated with the Muppets. Like they always do beignets and shit. Give me a Kermit shaped beignet. Give me
mm.
a fucking like, give me a goddamn. I don't even necessarily. I think my criticism more is just like we had a sit down restaurant and now we
Yeah.
don't, and all of the things in comparison to me seem like not as good.
And to be fair, the one item on that menu that I really have beef with, the Waka Waka nachos.
That Waka Waka Nacho. What the
Are
fuck?
we serious people? I love you, but you are not serious people.
They should have been Nigel's nachos based off of the Nigel from Muppets Tonight.
That's a deep cut, but I think honestly probably would have been better.
It would have been better. I think we could have gotten fucking Droop Dole Whip. Oh, come on, Disney.
Like get us in the Imagineering office.
What the
I
fuck?
know that our options are limited at this point in time. I feel like they maybe should have put pizza on the menu at food and had it be pizza
Yeah.
Rizzo. Feels like a
They
missed
could have,
opportunity.
that would have been a slam fucking dunk. And I just want to say that, like, we Pizza Rizzo's was a really great later addition to Muppet Courtyard. It came around in 2016. Now, as Muppet Courtyard is a thing of the past, Pizza Rizzo's is closed, Muppet Vision is closed. The I think I'm falling into that thing where it's like, I don't want to just give Disney credit for giving us crumbs, but at the same time, I'm like, I would rather there be Disney food in those parks. I mean, a Muppets food in a Disney park rather than there not be. So as much as I miss Pizza Rizzo's, I'll take some fucking Waka Waka nachos, I guess.
Reheating pizza Rizzo's nachos more like.
It's that ass.
That was horrible. Kick me off the podcast for that.
Hey,
But like, yeah. The last thing that I want to mention about Pizza Rizzo is that when I went, me and my buddy Alyssa, we went as Kermit and Piggy, and
oh,
they gave
cute.
us the servers at Pizza Rizzo gave us each little cupcake, which was lovely of them, which they didn't have to do, and they were very sweet, and I like them.
Fuck yeah.
Thank you
Shout
to
out.
thank you to the Disney Park food service workers who were working at Pizza Rizzo on that one January day.
I want to
Very
say
sweet.
the employees, all of the Disney cast members who were working at Muppet Vision, the Courtyard Pizza Rizzo's, like you can tell these were some fucking Muppet fans. Oh my God. Like I feel like you go to Disney and you go to like certain parts of the park and you don't necessarily feel like these people like I don't think this person necessarily when I'm on the Jungle Cruise is like a Jungle Cruise fucking diehard. But
Mm.
like when you're in Muppet Vision, again, when you were in the Muppet Courtyard, I met multiple cast members on the last day with Muppet tattoos. Like this was like a school, like a fucking that courtyard was being run by actual Muppet fans with real appreciation for what it was.
I There were people stood outside of Pizza Rizzo, like opening the door for you. One of those girls had an Igel, like really rare, like I've never seen it for anything less than $80 Rizzo plush. Like a really
Hell
nice,
yeah.
like not Disney product, really high quality Rizzo plush. Because like obviously when you go into Muppet Vision, like usually the cast member at the front has a few plushes on the desk as when they're
Yeah.
getting admitted in. But like, yeah a real collector's item Rizzo plush
Where
on
you're
her
like,
on the job, and it's like,
you
oh,
gotta be a Muppet fan. You
you
know
know
ball. Like,
ball.
come on.
Like I see you, I
I
hear you.
So like you got out of Pizza Rizzo. I would love to hear more about your experience on your trip to going to Muppet because we haven't even gotten into going into Muppet Vision itself yet. Like,
Well, that's because Muppet Vision was always so much more than the ride, and it was
of
always so
course.
much more than just the film. It was
It's like
just
the experience of going and
it
like
was
getting to be in Muppet Courtyard.
complete and utter full immersion, which is what I loved about it. The thing I'll mention next is just like the courtyard in general. So beautifully decorated, even in
Mm.
its kind of like reduced state, because I know in its heyday, it had a lot going for it. There was a lot more in the fountain.
Yes, they
The
used to have a
stage one
Fozzie in there.
store was open. Um, there
Oh, I'm
was
gonna
the
get into
hot air
that.
balloon was still on top. Like the marquee, the sign was different. Like there were so many details that when I went were stripped back from how it was in its heyday, and even then it was still such an experience. See, even just like getting to sit out front of the stage one store with the big Kermit tuxedo statues
Oh,
and like the big
yes.
Bunsen on the top,
The
the murals
piggy.
painted on the
Oh,
side, the pork security for like the restricted areas that you can't go into with the
oh,
link posters. It was just all so incredible. The posters
like,
in like the little area that's like when you come out of the ride, like the posters for
yes.
Electric Mayhem featuring Clifford, like
Oh my
Ricky
God. Yeah, the
Rax,
fact
like
they had Clifford on
Fozzie's
there.
comedy set poster, just and like the Muppet Labs, like the little posters for the bins where you're supposed to put
Yeah.
your glasses, just so much of it. The huge like billboard of Piggy on top of the
Oh,
store.
fucking incredible. The Kermit like clock on the store and everything. Like, as Will said, a lot of people kind of in talking about Muppet's Courtyard, understandably kind of look at it like, it used to be, especially in the first era of it. It used to be having a lot more. It used to be more detailed. It used to have like all of the things that Will mentioned, like the fucking hot air balloon and the Fozzie and the fountain and all of these things. But even with the reduced state that it was in, and we went in the waning days, like the days where it was so close to Muppet Vision closing, I went on the literal last day. It was fucking mind blowing to me that I could spend hours walking around and not even riding Muppet Vision and just like taking in every single little Muppet detail in this place. Even with the store closed, even with all of these other elements gone, you could really, really feel the immersion when you were in Muppet Courtyard.
Yeah, just an absolutely incredibly well themed area. Again, full of so much love for the Muppets and just like the desire to make a real Muppet themed land. There you could see that the intention was there that like this was like the grand entrance to a Muppet land. You could
Oh,
see that they were there. This was supposed to be like your entrance point into it. And even just down to like the music that was playing was like
yes,
I distinctly remember hearing like an instrumental, like kind of slightly more like jazz suite version of I Hope Something Better Comes Along from the Muppet movie.
dude.
Having like
I
versions of songs from the Muppet movie and from Caper and Manhattan and like just like the Muppet Show theme, just like the music in the area was incredibly well just like it accentuated the kind of vintage sort of feel of it. It really felt you like you were stepping into not only the Muppets world, but like the Muppets world in their prime.
Oh my God, I could not agree more because I think what Disney I think does quite well with their immersive themed lands is creating these like gorgeous instrumental orchestral scores that go along for each theming of each land. And I think Muppet, what is a little frustrating about this new Muppet Courtyard that's coming, quote unquote, it's the track list that has been revealed. There's some fun songs on there. I think getting to listen to Everlong by the Foo Fighters at Disney is like a fun thing that's happening. But they're not doing like a detailed Muppet like instrumental fucking themed score where you walk around and you hear deep cuts, as Will said, from like Muppets Take Manhattan and all of these things. And I think that is so, like we talk about the loss of Muppet Vision and all of these different things, part of it. But I think something that a lot of people are looking over is how fantastic the music was and how we're not going to have that anymore. And how we are missing that charm and that beautiful, beautiful when I'd walk out and I'd hear fucking somebody's getting married, but in like a jazzy, like Disney version. I fucking love that.
It's in terms of the track list for the new sort of like courtyard, the Muppet themed courtyard. Um, I like the track list. There's a lot of great songs on there. Again, as you said, Foo Fighters. The notion of the Muppets having a ride and on like the themed music outside is My Chemical Romance is
Yeah.
crazy. But also that they got some of the Mayhem's original songs from Muppets Mayhem, which don't know why they're not on the ride, but okay.
Yeah,
Sorry,
whatever.
but like that album is full of bangers, and not having Rock On and Mayhem from that album and from that show be rides on the track list for the actual roller coaster is insane to me. But the fact that they're going to be in the outside area,
Yeah.
teeny weeny, that makes up for it. But even
Like
then, like I don't know, I feel like having it be. Maybe even because like I know it's gonna be rock themed, and I appreciate that they've got some bangers on there in terms of like representing rock. But can't help but feel like maybe if they had some original Mayhem music.
I was hoping for more just like Muppet rock mayhem type shit, or just like more Muppet covers of like mayhem covering more rock songs. But
Mm.
you know, I think it just goes back into what was so special about Muppet Courtyard and Muppet Vision 3D is that we had a hyper themed like artistically stylized score that pulled in deep cuts from all eras of Henson. And like when you walked around Muppet Vision 3D in that courtyard, damn, it felt good to hear those songs.
Now we've kind of covered the whole courtyard, except there's a part of the courtyard that I never got to experience because I got in too late. Would you perhaps be
Yes,
willing to talk a little bit about the Stage One store?
of course. Okay, yeah. I am super excited to talk about this because that is one of those things that's interesting to me about Disney parks is when you go and you get to see like abandoned and like things that aren't used anymore, but like remnants of old parts of like of the park. Like that shit really entertains me beyond Muppet stuff. Um, but for the longest time in Muppet Courtyard, and it still existed, there was like a studio themed stage building, as Will described. It had until the very end Kermit statues out front. It had fucking Miss Piggy fucking mural, Kermit Claw Gonzo painted on the side. This beautiful themed building so that really accentuated, wow, we're in Muppet's Courtyard. Look at all these Muppets, but I can't go into this building. So it just felt like it just felt like walls that were well themed to the Muppets, but you couldn't actually go in there. Like, yeah, come on. Like this is just like we're using the walls, not the store. But on the last day of Muppet Vision, everyone thought like, whoa, they're gonna open the Studio One store, like they're gonna open it up and we're gonna see all of these things. That did not happen. But thankfully, I was able to experience it a few times growing up as a kid. So as I said before, I did not grow up as like a Disney family. You know, my parents, we definitely grew up with a few kids here in Seattle whose families, like even before Disney adult was like a terminology used, their families were like Disney families. Obviously, I'm very appreciative to have like come to be able to have like had the privilege to go to Disney, but then also experience like other things, like go abroad and all of those things. But my grandparents lived in Florida, and so I fucking ended up in Disney a good amount of times just because of like them being close to Orlando. The last time I went to Disney before the Muppet Vision trip was 2011, so it had been like 15 years since I had been to Disney World. So it's not like we were a family that like was fucking going all the time. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not. Um, However, when I had gone to Disney in the past, Muppet Courtyard looked way different. As we described, Pizza Rizzo and Gonzo's Royal Flush were late additions. Those came about in 2016. For the longest time, because the Henson deal went through, it wasn't even referred to as Muppet's Courtyard. And Muppet's Courtyard was a lot smaller because it was right also in the section of the Streets of America. Back when it was Disney's MGM Studios, it was like they had the whole like movie set element to it and like, oh, it's a New York City set. And then they gave up on all that shit. And it's like, fuck, we all have all these building facades, whatnot. Um, and so that became the Streets of America. And Muppets Courtyard was a lot smaller. And when you'd walk out of the Stage One gift shop, you weren't in like you wouldn't walk out to like a hyper themed Muppet area. It would be like, all right, you're back in the New York City streets. Um, but what was super cool about stage one is that, like a lot of Disney themed gift shops, they fucking pulled some crazy deep cuts. Like when you go into that store, I remember distinctly as a kid, uh they sectioned off each part of the store, and if you were like looking around and like really started to notice, you would realize that you were on recreations of different sets from Muppet movies. Like think about that for a second. Like for a long time, you were able to go into that fucking gift shop and be in the Happiness Hotel. Like are we kidding right now?
Which is crazy. Again, it was all designed sort of like off the cusp of that original Henson trilogy of movies. So like that was all they really had to go on in terms of like
Yes.
their theming. And oh my God, what a selection of movies to theme a gift shop around. Are you kidding
Dude,
me?
they had the lockers from Muppets Take Manhattan. They had the Happiness Hotel. They had a bunch of elements from the original Muppet movie, like different. They had like Gonzo. They had stuff from Gonzo's like plumbing business car, stuff like that. They even had some Muppet Babies stuff that was like recreation of like certain elements of the Muppet Babies set. And to me, that really spoke to like, yeah, this was like the three Jim Henson made movies and then like the last bit of Henson before he passed. And so you'd walk around in a store, mind you, Disney, when they have like when you get out of the fucking like Pirates of the Caribbean, you go into a store that's all Pirates of the
Mm.
Caribbean shit. That was the Studio One store. Disney Mupdates over here is really the one who gets like the Muppet merch shit, and I think they can attest, even though they didn't go to this thing in the past, you had a whole store that was just Muppet items and Muppet Disney shit that you would never ever get nowadays.
I throw my hands up guilty. I'm the merch fiend. I've seen pictures, I've seen video, I've seen photographs, I've had testimonies from friends. It really seemed like such a special store. Like, I'm sorry, that's the
Dude,
kind of store I could spend hours in.
I
And to also
remember
spend hundreds in.
as a kid, I was so like, because I was a Muppet. We were both Muppet obsessed children. I'll get into it as like get into like my experiences growing up with that ride and such as we get into the ride itself, because we've been talking about
Mm.
everything but the ride. We have
Oh,
so
yeah.
much to say about this. Holy shit. Not in a bad, I'm just so excited.
Mm.
Everything just keeps going on another tangent because I'm just so hyped about every element of Muppet Courtyard. But the Studio One store, I remember as a kid distinctly, there were so many like different Muppet items everywhere. It's in my car. I should have grabbed it before I recorded this episode. Um, I got this Kermit the Frog plush keychain that has been hanging on my car since I was 15. And I got that, I think, in 2009. Um, and distinctly, what blew me away about the Muppet Studio One store, the last time I ever went to it was in 2011, right after the Muppets 2011 movie dropped. And so that store became like it was already pretty themed to the Muppets and had Muppet items and everything, but the absolute explosion, it really feels like a bygone era where Disney was putting so much investment into the Muppets. When you walked out of that fucking ride and it was like, okay, new Muppet comic books, new shit that had Walter on it, like Muppet things that you would never see nowadays or would fetch a pretty penny on the aftermarkets and things like that. Where
Oh, believe me,
as
they
a
do. They
Oh
do.
yeah. Oh yeah. Like I remember as a kid, there was three things in total that I picked up from the Muppet Courtyard Studio One store. It was that Kermit the Frog plush keychain that has been hanging in my car for over a decade. There was a Muppets comic book that I picked up, and I distinctly remember it because my mom had given me her Muppet comic books from when she was a kid growing up in like having moved from the Philippines to Brussels. And so like my mom was super hyped, being like, they're making Muppet comics again. Oh my God. And so she got one as well. She was hyped. Um, and then I got these animal themed. I've lost them now. I lost them back in like fucking 2013. But like they were animal themed drumsticks. And like I think that is a fucking rare pull that I never see on eBay and shit. I please someone confirm to me if I wasn't just making that up placebo effect or something. But like that or Mandela effect. Like distinctly remember buying animal themed drumsticks at Studio One during the hype of Muppets 2011, where that store was. Think about this, like a store themed to the three original Henson movies, but now filled with all of the Muppets 2011 reboot shit. It felt like an era of Henson where it was back. It was like everything, they're putting their effort into the Muppets again. The Muppets are back, baby.
That must have been a really special point in time where we were like actually getting new Muppet content like consistently. Like we talked about this at the beginning of the year, where what we were hoping out of the year. And obviously it's not so much a priority for you, but we've had some pretty good stuff in the way of Muppet things to buy
Yeah, we've
lately.
had some good Muppet merch.
We've had some good Muppet merch, and unfortunately, I'm a sucker for it. I do love the fan made stuff, though. We are going to give a very quick shout out, if I may, to a fan of who makes the little Rizzo bag clip keychains.
Oh,
Um,
hell yeah.
yeah, love him, love him, love him. I've actually got
Love
mine. You
those.
can see him dangling up there. He's right there.
Hell yeah.
Bless him. The notion of there being like an active Muppet store, like that's
Oh,
I'd be like a kid in a candy store or a Muppets in a Muppet store.
A Muppets in a Muppet store. It's
Mm.
like not just a Muppet store, but a Muppet store that has fucking Muppets Take Manhattan lockers and a happiness hotel, and then like all of the props from the original movie. Another thing that was missing in Disney, that like I'm just gonna briefly mention. I never got to do the studio tour at Hollywood Studios, despite growing up going to the Disney parks. But the one time I tried to go on it, there was like a huge medical emergency and they shut down the thing. Someone had to get airlifted out of the park. But I remember distinctly walking through the damn the queue to get on the Hollywood Studios tour, and they had the Muppets freaking Happiness Hotel caper taxi, and it was so briefly there. And I hope one of our fans and like someone in the Muppet community can confirm that for me, but I distinctly remember seeing the Muppets caper fucking taxi in there.
Bo's Taxi.
Yes.
Man, that would be crazy. Are we, how do you feel about taking a little segue to talk about some items, some merchandise items? No, it's not your favorite, but I'd like
No,
to talk
I'm
about the merch.
it's not,
Um,
again, I don't mean to just fucking be the position of this podcast, because I do a podcast with the Updates, and I hope it doesn't ever come off like I'm just being like, fucking merch, what is this, capitalist slop? I don't do that as I'm holding my Muppet fucking collection like right here. Like, I think there is some value in talking about this, so let's please do it.
thing is, the really upsetting thing is that I agree with your opinion. I just don't have the spine to follow through on it because I'm a
Dude,
compulsive buyer and I like to sit in my dragon hoard and look at all my Muppet treasures and be among them and look upon them as they bring me joy.
can I
I
say though, like, how the fuck am I supposed to be like, hey man, this is like, we're trying not to be consumerist here when we're talking about Disney. Like, I'm sitting here like talking about like, I like going to the Disney parks, and then being like, how can I say that and then just be judgmental? So
I
it's buying shit.
I sit here telling myself that I'm ethical because I rebuy a lot of or I buy a lot of stuff
Yes, same.
secondhand. And I'm like, I'm an ethical Muppet collector because I buy everything secondhand. And then my
Yeah.
stupid ass buys the Treasure Island like tankard mug just because it's got Rizzo the Rat on the bottom of it. Like I'm cooked.
That was based off the cast and crew mug, so I have to have it.
It's true because of reason that I made up, I'm allowed to like buy new things.
Of
I
course.
just
I think that in terms of the Muppet Studio One store, we used to have really, really good Muppet merch. And the thing that I don't like about Disney, I mean, there's a lot I don't like about Disney as a corporation and how they operate, but Disney merchandise and like themed Disney park shit sucks most of the time. Like, if I'm like
yeah.
thinking about wearing something, this I got online from like a non-Disney seller. Like, because fucking Disney parks merch a lot of the time sucks ass. It
This shirt is fan
sucks.
made as well. This isn't an official Disney
Yes.
product, and you can tell because I would actually want to wear it on my
Yeah,
body.
because I'd actually fucking buy that. And so the thing that we lost with the Disney Muppet, like the Muppet Studio One store, was an era where they actually were making shit that like I would actually buy. And maybe it's good that they don't have it anymore, so I'm not spending an absurd amount of money giving it to the Disney Corporation. But there were some good things that I miss dearly from that store.
There were some really good plushes. I have
Yes.
a Muppet Vision Kermit, like a small one that I quite
Oh,
enjoy,
fuck. This Kermit right here is a Muppet Vision Kermit.
who is beautiful, and that's actually the Kermit that I don't
It's
have.
yours as well. I'm supposed to send it to you. Ha!
Oh my goodness, there he is, my son.
It's your son.
I have a smaller version of that, and his feet are backwards for some reason. It brings me no small amount of distress. But like they had some really good plushes. They had a scooter one that I do want to get my hands on
Oh,
because it's one of
yeah.
the only scooter plushes I've ever made. A bean bunny, which I do
I was about
have.
to
He's
say,
just out of way. Okay, we're gonna break the illusion
you
here.
got
He's
it.
just
We
out
got
of
to see
frame.
Bean.
You
Audio
see him up there, and
listeners.
there's my little Hubba Hubba bag clip sat in his lap. But
Oh, my hubba bad clips over here. God damn.
they had a little bean bunny plush. He was great.
I
Um,
just, there was good Muppet merch being produced. That's the difference between the era we had then versus now, which
yeah.
is crazy.
One of my favorite items that was sort of from that era was they had Muppet box, a money box, a piggy bank, a Muppet Vision 3D piggy bank that was like
Yeah.
the building, and it had Kermit and Piggy and Fozzie on the front, and on the back it had Bean, the Muppet Labs duo, and Waldo C. Graphic. Now I didn't feel like getting it down because it is actually like at the back of my shelf here, but I do have it. You have to believe me, I have it. And it's one of the jewels of my collection. It's up there, and I love her, and she's wonderful.
Believe.
That's a really awesome piece of it. But I do have two items here in particular that I would like to give a special highlight to, if I
Oh my
may.
God, a live fucking Muppet on the A Muppet Moment podcast. Guys, you guys are getting a fucking treat right now, dude.
Hi there, it's time for a update, and
He
these
said the
two items,
thing.
could you believe it?
Oh
These two
my
items,
God.
these two items, I'm actually yet to make a update on. So these really are
Oh yeah,
podcast
this is
exclusive.
exclusive. Y'all
We should
better be
be
fucking hyped for this. The hype's in the chat right now for this update shit.
We really should make this like a monetized thing. You're getting the exclusive updates here.
Goes what to
Now,
say.
this first item is actually not really strictly specifically a Muppet item. It has says Muppets Holding Company LLC on the back of it,
I
but
like
it's more
that.
of a Hollywood Studios item. As you can see on the back of it, it's got Hollywood Studios, Muppets
Ooh,
Holding Company LLC, because everything else on there is like an original Disney product, pretty much.
yeah.
And what it is actually just like a little Christmas ornament. It's just like a little sort of
Cute.
ceramic Christmas ornament from the year 2009, and you can tell because it's got 2009 on it. Now, the
Those
interesting
are
thing about this is
numbers.
it's just a Hollywood Studios Christmas ornament, and on each of the numbers, you've got like a specific thing. I'm gonna try my best to get a good image of it for the visual viewers, but I'm gonna do audio description as well, accessibility.
Thank you. Because
Now, for
we're,
the
yeah, there we
two,
go.
you've got little Mickey in a director's outfit there.
I don't know who that is, but I like how he looks.
He's some guy that they keep using in the parks, expecting people to get him. He'll never
Don't
be as
know him,
popular as
don't
like the
care.
Orange Bird, the iconic Orange Bird.
Yeah, I like the orange bird.
For the first zero, you've got the Hollywood Tower of Terror, which is, of course, iconic visual for Hollywood studios.
I'm not gonna go on a whole different rant, but being a Californian and the fact that we now just have fucking the
You
the
got Guardian.
Marvel version of it.
Hey, you gotta
Don't
bust
even.
the Guardians of the Galaxy out of
Hey,
here.
we're busted out of here. Where I'm like, it visually disrupts the skyline, but that park is now just like Marvel Pixar park. But I digress.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate side effect of the MCU. And the fact that they're
Ugh.
probably not even super popular a park anymore because the MCU is not super that popular of a movie franchise anymore. But that's for a different
Ah.
podcast. That's for a different duo to talk about. Now, the second zero in 2009 is, as you can see, it's the Muppet. It's Kermit,
Oh
it's
my
Animal,
God.
and it's actually Rizzo in his little Mickey
Dressed
outfit from the
It's
Muppet
Rizzo
Vision
from the
pre-show.
fucking pre-show.
Exactly, from the pre-show, which again we will segue into next. But you want to know what's on the second, or the last number, the nine in 2009, right next to the Muppets on this ornament?
What's next to the Muppets on the top 2009 Hollywood Studios ornament, Will?
Funny you ask that. Rock and Roller Coaster.
Oh my God, Rock
The
and
fore
Roller Coaster
the
starring
foreshadowing.
Aerosmith?
The foreshadow. Starring Aerosmith for now.
Dude, the foreshadowing of having Muppet Vision and fucking Rock and Roller Coaster right next to each other on the same thing.
I mean, obviously they were both iconic like features of the Hollywood studio, so it's only natural they would both be on there. I only bought this because I thought it was really funny because it had Rock and Roller Coaster and the Muppets on there, and it's like, did bro know? Does he
It's like
know?
Muppets still exist, but just not that one. It's like, oh man. I think it's funny to me that they like those are iconic parts of the park, of course, but I think it's funny that at the time they still had the fucking Mickey ears at the front of the park and shit, like the wizard hat. And so the fact
Yeah,
that they picked like Rizzo dressed as Mickey over something like that or the water tower, good ornament. I like that ornament.
great ornament, and I will be putting this on my tree come Christmas. The second piece I want to talk about is I'm going to do my very best to make this not a brag, but this is
I'm
genuinely
excited.
this is one of the jewels of the Muppet collection for me, and I'm really pleased
I
to own this.
I was very much like Will told me that we might do some updates on this episode, and I was like, hell yeah. But there was a fucking item in here that Will was going to surprise me with as well. So I'm learning for the first time just as much as you all are.
So I'll come out right off the bat. It's a pin trading pin. Disney parks known for pin trading, known for their enamel pins, known for their very
Hey,
nice
do
quality.
be. Wait, I have a fucking. I got this at Disney. It's Kermit and Fozzie. It's
Oh,
Muppets.
cute. Love
How cute
them.
is that?
Slightly different league than the pins like that, though, unfortunately, I
Oh
must say.
shit. Oh shit.
Slightly different league. So I can tell you that it was made and sold in the year 2018, and it's from a very rare line of Disney Parks items. Now, we've talked about how Muppet Courtyard was stripped back a little bit. One of
Yes.
the details that was kind of the most iconic about it, that really caused quite a bit of upset when it was removed, was the hot air balloon on
Oh,
top.
I I know exactly what you're gonna say. I'm
Was
gonna
the
let you give your whole spiel, but oh my God.
was the hot air balloon on top of the theater, which I imagine was probably removed so that it didn't disrupt the skyline of Galaxy's Edge, I imagine.
Someone needs to hit someone over the head who made that decision, but
it
I digress.
it was gone for whatever reason or another, but the hot air balloon on top of Muppet Vision was dismantled. But not gone forever, because there was a line of pins that they did that's part of a line called A Piece of Walt Disney World History.
Ah,
You
the
know where I'm going with
jealousy is
it?
seeping into my body right now.
So they did this as well they did two of these for Muppet Vision in Disney California. What they did was they made Statler and Waldorf pins that had little sort of glass orbs that contained little tiny pieces of each of the costumes on the animatronics. And they did the same thing for the Swedish chef. A little piece of chef's costume was in a little glass orb on this pin. What I
Oh
have
my
here
God.
on its original cardboard, mind you, with its original details on the back, which I will read for you. Muppet Vision 3D at Disney World's Hollywood Studios opened May 16th, 1991. This attraction features the Muppets in a humorous 3D film with in-theater sensory and special effects. This pin
True.
contains a piece of the hot air balloon, which was part of the exterior theming. Now I'll show this up close. It's
Audio
Kermit.
listeners, there's a fucking Kermit.
There's a Kermit on the hot air balloon pin, and that little glass orb there. I'll shake it around the best I can. It has a teeny tiny piece of the hot air balloon from Muppet Vision inside of it.
That is the jealousy I have for that one because yeah, it's a tiny like size of fucking rice grain, like
Oh, it's
size piece of the
minuscule.
thing.
It's not even worth
Minuscule.
like putting in like a case. It's got to go in a little bubble in an enamel pin.
the fact that you have even a grain of rice sized piece of this attraction. I'm jealous. That shit is awesome. That is a good
That's
find. That's a good fucking find.
I am really pleased with that find, to be honest with you. It's something that I definitely wanted to talk about on here because it's like crazy that I own a piece of this like deceased attraction
It's a
through one
literal
way or
piece of
another.
it, like a literal piece of Muppet Vision.
So I've talked a lot about my experience with it because I kind of had my first and last experience with Muppet Vision at the same time last January. But as you've mentioned, you've been to Muppet Vision quite a lot more than I have, and you've been to it in kind of different states. Would you be willing to talk a little bit about sort of like your personal connection with this courtyard and this attraction?
Well, I'm so glad you asked Wilm updates. Thank you. Yes, indeed. I've mentioned it like three times. We weren't like a Disney family, but by virtue of my grandparents living very close to Orlando, we ended up going a good amount of times when I was a kid. And you know, I am nostalgic about Disney as like I'm not really nostalgic for a lot of things about Disney, but what I am very nostalgic for is the parks. Like I think the parks are something that I do hold a lot of like, reverence for the creative like driving forces, a lot of them, the Imagineers, all of those things. But as a kid, I grew up watching Pixar. I grew up watching Disney movies, things like that. But to be honest, I could give so less of a fuck as a kid about any of that compared to Muppets. Like,
Yeah.
I think Will and I can both relate to like in growing up in these eras where you had these big movies like fucking Cars and like you grew up with like the Pixar Renaissance and stuff. Obviously these movies were like big and impactful. Like I like grew up watching like Finding Nemo and then you go to the fucking park and it's like, hey, there's all the Nemo shit. But like none of that hit me at all like Muppets do. The way that the Muppets were such a formative thing growing up for me, like starting with Sesame Street, watching the Muppet movies like Treasure Island and Manhattan and all of that stuff, and like watching it on DVD and VHS, like having Muppet Show episodes readily available. Like I was a kid who grew up watching the Muppets. Like that's like a thing that I take pride in is that I grew up being like a hardcore Muppet fan. But like when I go to Disney as a kid, because I think I mentioned before, the last time I went to Disney before going to the last day of Muppet Vision was 2011, right when the Muppets 2011 reboot came out. Um, but so I was born in 2002. So that's about 9 years. And we didn't go like every year, but like within that, I probably went to Disney like, I don't know, 5 or 6 times within that. And every time, without fail, from when I was like 4 years old all the way until 2011, when we didn't go back to Disney again, every single time, without fail. I didn't give a shit about any of this other Disney stuff going on. All I wanted to do was ride Muppet Vision every single time. Like we literally like, hey, we were thinking about going to Disney while we're visiting Grandma and Papa. So we get to ride Muppet Vision. Oh my God, Muppet Vision's there. That's awesome. I can't wait to ride Muppet Vision. So like yeah, I was very fortunate to have like the privilege to ride Muppet Vision throughout the 2000s and into the early 2010s. As I mentioned before, Muppet Courtyard looked insanely different. Will brought up how they had the fucking hot air balloon that he now owns a piece of. They had like a freaking fountain with Fozzie in there next to the Miss Piggy Statue of Liberty. And the Studio One store was open. When I was a kid growing up there, it was Streets of America. And since whenever I'd visit my grandparents, it would always be around like Thanksgiving time, like November in America. So I straight up, the first time I went, like going after 15 years, that was the first time I had been to Disney when it wasn't like Christmas themed. I had never experienced Disney not in Christmas time. So it was actually weird. I was like, whoa, this place hits different during the holidays. But uh I think we've talked about Muppet Vision and like the impact that it's had. I'm just gonna come out and say like right off, I'm just gonna lay my cards out, bare my soul to you
Yeah,
Muppet Moment
hit me with
audience
it.
members. I grew up watching the Muppet movies. I grew up watching the Muppet Show. I grew up watching all of these things. Who knew, right? How the
No
fuck?
way.
That's
Who could have
mind blowing.
guessed?
Who would have done that? I grew up watching all of these things. But the most impactful piece of Muppet media for me, without a doubt, is Muppet Vision 3D. Because that not only was it like my favorite thing to do at Disney, like the times I went with my parents, but yeah, Muppet Vision 3D was always the most impactful piece of Henson media for me, down to every element of the theming, getting to be inside of the Muppet Theater, getting to see all of these characters that I particularly loved so much more than all the rest of the shit going on at Disney. Like, I remember just Muppet Vision was the most impactful piece of Henson media when I would think about my love for the Muppets as a kid. Like Sesame Street would come up, but I would really think like if we're like ranking all of the things from when I was a child and like what was the things I cared about the most in terms of the Muppets, it was Muppet Vision 3D because all of the nostalgia of like going with my family, like taking these little trips where we'd like break away from the rest of our family on Thanksgiving and like end up going over there and spending all this time in Muppet Courtyard. My parents, also being big Muppet fans, like wanted to spend time doing Muppet shit while we were there. It wasn't a thing where I had to like be like, please, I want to watch Muppet Vision. No, we're going on Rock and Roller Coaster pre Muppets. Like, my parents are Muppet fans. And so they were very, very happy to indulge me and like the absurd amount of time I wanted to spend looking at all of the different Muppet elements going on. Um, I think I mentioned it in our very, very first episode of A Muppet Moment, all the way back then. Is way back then, I mentioned this episode. I mentioned that one of my most formative Muppet moments specifically happened at Muppet Vision 3D. And it's a distinct memory that I look back on as like, yeah, this really influenced like my nostalgia, really influenced how I am as a person in terms of like I just look back on that and I'm like, of course I have a Muppet podcast with my friend nowadays. Like that
Yeah,
this would be a fucking thing.
it's gonna
Um,
happen.
of course, like as I mentioned, Streets of America is what it used to be outside of like Muppet Courtyard and everything. And they used to have this thing called the Osborne Family Lights. So I brought up going to Disney only during Christmas time, all of that shit. As context to say, they used to have this beautiful Christmas light show at Disney at Hollywood Studios that is no longer there. That was only there, I think, through like 90s through the 2000s. And it was this, yeah, it was an incredible, beautiful light show. It was a. I'm not going to go into the whole history of the fucking Osborne family lights, but all you need to know is that it was very pretty, and you'd walk out and they'd do fake snow coming down. You know, being in Florida, it felt fucking pretty convincing, I will say. Um, but I distinctly remember it was like I think this might have been 2011. I'm pretty sure. Yes, this absolutely was because this was like Muppets 2011 had just come out, and I was on such Muppet hypeness. I remember the movie had come out, Muppets 2011, and that being such a cultural surge of Muppet relevance again was super, super hype for me as a kid, super impactful because like growing up as a Muppet fan, holy shit, now the Muppets are relevant again, and kids at my school are actually engaging with the Muppets. Like, how cool is that? Um, and so Muppets 2011 just came out, and we're going to fucking Disney. We're going to Muppet Courtyard. So I'm already hyped on goddamn Muppets. I'm so hyped. I like we go on Muppet Vision, we have a good time, but later in the day, we're at Hollywood Studios and it just starts pouring rain. That like Florida fucking like when you just get hit with like a tropical storm like in the middle of your day. Um, I remember ducking into Muppet Vision. Like we were trying to go on fucking Star Tours, but the line was like out the fucking door. Everybody was trying to get out of the rain by going into Star Tours. And not a lot of people were dipping out to go into Muppet Vision instead. But my family was like, of course we're gonna go to Muppet Vision. Um, I just remember sitting in that theater sopping wet from like being outside in the rain. Just being blown away. I watched it many times in the past, but I just remember every fucking joke. Maybe it's because I was just so hyped on the Muppets recently, but like every joke was hitting. Like the I think the hardest I had seen my mom laugh as a kid was that day when we saw the fucking remote control banana cream pie joke in the fucking like a remote control banana cream pie. I think that's the hardest I've ever seen my mom laugh. Like genuinely. Um,
I'll tell you what it was when I went to go and see it. The one joke that absolutely got a laugh out of me and particularly Alyssa every single time, it was when Piggy went ass up, getting pulled away by
Yeah.
by the water skiing line.
I think the two jokes that get me, like, I think the funniest joke on the whole ride for me is when Kermit is walking through explaining Muppet Vision 3D, and he's like, "We invited scientists from all over the world to come and work here. Unfortunately, none of them answered. So here is Bunsen and Beaker."
It's just,
That,
unfortunately nobody showed up, so we've got these two fucking assholes.
dude, that's such a classic Muppet joke because it's like it's like very Loretta Lynn at the train station where it's like they set up where the Muppets have such good intentions and they just try really hard very earnestly but then they end up just with the bullshit that they're always doing. That's really cute and earnest, and I think that line is like such a Muppet line that like is one of the best things that fucking Jerry Jewell has written in my opinion.
I was gonna say I have really strong opinions about the riding in Muppet Vision, and like we'll get to it when we talk about the actual ride, which I feel like this is becoming a pretty good segue into it. But
Oh yeah. I
like,
have I have a little more to say about my childhood shit with it, but this is like all
of
to just
course,
lead
yeah,
into the fucking ride.
naturally,
Like,
we'll bounce back to the ride later. But please do finish your story.
oh yeah, I was just gonna say the other quick joke that like absolutely kills me at Muppet Vision is when well, obviously it's just fucking like tribute to all nations, but mostly America. Every time fucking Sam says that, it just destroys me. I think it's hilarious. Um, but yeah, as a kid, I walked into the theater and you're getting all of these jokes. You're just in the comfort and like the you're in Muppet theater, like because that's like as we'll get into the ride, like you on over any time in history are closer than ever to legitimately being in the Muppet Theater. Statler and Waldorf are right there. You got the Penguin Orchestra, like how it's incredible. Um, I remember distinctly getting out of Muppet Vision and just riding the high of how much I love the Muppets, looking around at my family, them all enjoying the Muppets, and just being like, damn, I love the Muppets so much. And then, like, walking out of Muppet Vision 3D, you would walk into the streets of America, and I remember the fake snow coming down and all of the like the magical Christmas lights and all the music going off and everything. And it was just a moment of like pure bliss and specifically pure Muppet bliss because that could have, I we were at Disney during like Christmas time, like holiday season. That could have been at anywhere in the park. It could have been at the castle or whatever. But none of those things hit me emotionally. What hit me, and like to the point where now I'm fucking 24 and I still remember the exact feeling. I can see it picture perfect in my mind walking out of Muppet Vision on that day. It literally cemented as like a core memory. You are going to love the Muppets forever because this gave you so much joy. So I I feel very thankful that I was able to grow up watching Muppet Vision 3D. I grew up in California, but I really went to Disney World a good amount of times because of my grandparents. I didn't go to Disneyland until I was in high school. And by the time that I got, actually, no, I went, I think, once in middle school. And the time I got there, Frozen had taken over Muppets. Wasn't even PhilharMagic yet. It was like the Frozen sing along. So the last time I had ever ridden Muppet Vision 3D until I went on the very last day of its existence was 2011. And so I think that's like crazy to me that it had such a big impact and I can still remember everything of it so clearly when the last time I did it was 15 years in the past. Like that, I think proves how long lasting and impactful Muppet Vision has always been.
That's a really wonderful story. I found myself getting a bit emotional during it. I can't even lie to you. That's a really special story.
I'm so glad. I mean, fucking, we are people who get so much emotion out of the Muppets, and like,
Too much
I,
sometimes.
oh my God, Muppet Vision just brings it out of you like that. It's like, even if it wasn't me and we're so close, like such close friends, I think anytime I hear someone talking about their memories of Muppet Vision, it gets me in the fucking core.
To talk like well, obviously we're going to talk about the ride itself, but like for me and like to the kind of like really cap off my experience with going on that ride, I rode Muppet Vision 5 times during that day.
Mm.
And on the last one, it was like shortly before the park was closing, and I
Oh,
just I did not want to get out. I did
dude,
not want to get out of that seat. I didn't want to
I'm getting.
leave. I didn't want to put those glasses in the bins because I knew it would be the last time. Um,
Oh,
I there was like twice where I was like, this is gonna be the last time I'm gonna write it 3 times. Nope, I can't just do it. It was after the fifth time, the last time that I had kind of I was at a point of acceptance that was just like it was really difficult though because it felt like I had just fallen in love with this because I had very intentionally I knew very little about Muppet Vision before actually going to see it. I'd not watched like a cam rip of the film at all,
wow,
anything. I'd never watched
wow,
like anybody do the walkthrough. I didn't know what the pre-show room looked like. I didn't know how the
holy
pre-show
shit,
room. I intentionally left so much of it a mystery to me because for the longest time I didn't know Muppet Vision existed. Like for when I was a
mm,
teenager or anything, I didn't know that it was a thing. And it was only like in the last couple of years, like rekindling my sort of Muppet fascination that I knew that there was still a ride at Disney World. And shortly after I discovered it was a thing, I discovered that it was no longer going to be a thing for much longer. And so it was like I have to go and see it, knowing very little about it and experiencing all of this kind of really organically for the first time. I did not want to get out of that seat the last time I had to leave. And I
dude,
spent ages just sat on the little like the stoop um at the fountain, just looking at the fountain for the longest time because it was like nighttime at that point and she was all lit up and the neon sign for Pizza Rizzo was so bright and
dude.
the lights outside of Muppet Vision were all lit up and everything and the marquee was all lit up. There's a load of photos of me and actually like it's really embarrassing, but there was one photo I took of me kind of half turned around looking
Oh, and then I turned it into a trend accidentally.
that you we accidentally managed to manufacture a goodbye Muppet Vision trend because you recreated that photo. So many people started recreating that photo, enough for me to make a video compilation of
Yeah,
it that
it was
like
so
for like
cute. That was so
for
sweet.
for early on in my account did really well in terms of like engagement. But it was really beautiful to have so many people who I had just started to get to know send in these photos of them like recreating this kind of like really impactful moment for me on the last day, like just that like me in just complete and utter admiration and
Dude,
adoration of this of these like monuments to Jim's legacy. And for so many people to jump on that and do like kind of recreate that photo in a similar way, it just really hit me. And that's why it's kind of one of my favorite photos I've ever taken of myself, really. Well, no, I didn't even take it of myself. It was taken by Alyssa. But it was
dude.
like, damn, that really hit heavy, not just for how much I cared about it, but how much so many other people cared about it as well. Yeah, and it really
Um,
solidified that we had something going on as well. Because like,
dude,
yeah, we were really linked.
we were linked on that shit. I fucking took that photo and realized this is the exact way Will posed. So I need to fucking
Yeah, yeah.
I just to speaking to your emotion about being there specifically at like night when it's about to
Mhm.
close and they're like ushering you out of the park. And like Disney employees, I'll give them like a credit where they fucking like they let you have your emotional moment. They didn't just like get the fuck out. They like really hung around for a moment to like let me have like my time last with it. But I specifically I went to the last day of Muppet Vision, but I also intentionally went the day before because the massive, massive crowd that you saw on the very last day did not exist on the day before. And on the last night before the last day, like the fucking what is it, like the last day eve of the last day, I was standing in Muppet Courtyard pretty much alone. It was just like me and my parents and barely anybody else, maybe one or two other fans wearing Muppet t-shirts. And just being in that like empty courtyard, knowing the last day was happening the next day, knowing that this my rides on Muppet Vision that day were some of the last ones I'm ever gonna have, tomorrow being the last ones I'm ever gonna take. it really hit with the emotion. Like you're sitting in this fucking empty courtyard with the flickering lights of the Pizza Rizzo sign, with the like the gorgeous Muppet Courtyard stylized music, like kind of playing softly in the background, the fucking rumble of the piggy fountain. Being in Muppet Vision, being at Muppet Courtyard, it was just this feeling. Like you would feel it to your soul. Like Jim Henson did all of this. The people who were involved in the Muppets, like Richard Hunt and Frank Oz, and all these incredible people, were responsible for all this. When I'd sit in the last, like, at my last moments in Muppet Courtyard, I didn't sit there thinking like, "Wow, I'm so appreciative of Disney right now." I sat there just fully in the full emotion of how much Jim Henson has impacted the world, how much he's impacted my life, all of our friends' lives, how this attraction, the silly little show at Disney World, ended up being something that, like, just being in that space truly felt magical. Dan, I don't mean to religiousize Henson, but that is as close as I'm going to get to a religious experience, is fucking sitting in Muppet Courtyard with all of that Muppet elements happening at once with that piece.
It really did feel like a religious journey, though. Again, not to trivialize it, but like, yeah, it felt like I felt like a pilgrimage, and it felt like I was on holy land. Like,
Dude,
there's
100%.
no other way that I can really describe it. It really felt like I had gone to somewhere really spiritually significant.
Like we've been to the Muppet museums and such, and
Mm.
like seeing the puppets behind glass has like been incredible. We've also had the opportunity to see a Kermit not behind glass and get like
Mm.
real up close to it. Like Will and I have been very lucky in these regards, but there was a distinct different feeling about being in Muppet Courtyard where all of those other places, yes, Jim Henson made all the puppets and like, impacted all the things that are on display at the museum, but Jim Henson, fully this courtyard was his final vision, the final thing he did before he was laid to rest. So for Muppet Vision to close, it just was so damn emotional because it's literally the last thing Henson ever did, the last contribution of his incredible legacy to the world, now also being laid to rest. Like, oh, dude, how could you go there and not cry? Like, come on.
Yeah. And like obviously it struck a lot of people emotionally, especially a lot of people who never got to experience it. And it's just a testament to how profound and impactful this attraction was and this sort of themed area was. And I feel like we'd be remiss in talking all the way through this episode about Muppet Vision 3D and not talking about the actual
The
attraction.
actual, I was like, we're like 2 hours and something into this podcast, and we have yet to talk about the actual ride. Y'all are in for the long one because we have so much to say about how much we love the entirety of Muppet's Courtyard. But I'm so excited to get into the actual ride.
Oh, you've all been very patient, but I feel like we've got to enter those doors now and really get into it because, oh my goodness, from the second you step into the Muppet Vision 3D building, you're immersed. You're sucked in, you're pulled in. Just the way that everything's decorated, the big posters on the hallway, just
I
for the fact that you've got gags on like the doors, like on the Muppet Lab personnel doors on the way leading up, the doors that you can't open. I got humiliated because I was told that there was a cast member break room on the end of one of the doors, and I was like pulling on the handle, and Liz was like, "Nope, that's a cast member break room," and I was like, "I have to set myself afire. I have to set myself afire." But it's like the little security room as well, where there's like little Easter eggs in the
Oh,
back.
dude,
Key under the mat,
I Key
timeless,
Under the Mat, iconic.
timeless.
Like when you walk into Muppet Vision, one of the things that I loved about it, first of all, you have that awesome standee of Sweetums out front still, which is like the coolest shit ever to me. Like the fact that you could take a photo with Sweetums in some capacity is like unreal. But as Will brought up, you have all these posters when you walk right in. I love that they didn't update them throughout the whole ride like the whole thing of the ride. Yes, there was a few times where they like updated the front to have like 2011 and
Mhm.
2014 and all that stuff. But the actual like posters that you see when you walk into the Muppet Vision itself, all stuff from the 80s. And like I mean the early 90s. Like that stuff really hits, like seeing the vintage, like the old school looking Kermit and Piggy and everything. The fact that they kept that charm and didn't feel the need to like take a bunch of new, like super modernized looking photos of the Muppets for this ride. Really appreciative.
Yeah. It's again, it feels like a time capsule going into it. Obviously, you've got like different takes on the Muppets. Even like Brian Henson's take on the Muppets was different from Jim's, and you've got like the kind of like 2011 Disney era. They each have their own distinctive feel about what the Muppets are meant to be for that era. Everything about Muppet Vision feels so distinctly Jim's.
Yes. Every part of it feels so Jim Henson. Like every element from the little gags to all of the theming and styling, it feels something born out of the creative minds who really, really did the Muppets from like the get-go. Like when you walk around and you see all of these gags, I'm like, Jerry Jewell must have fucking wrote these gags. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I love also the security fucking desk is so funny to me. The fact that Link Hogthrob is like the security guard for the theater. That kills me. The fact like that gives really funny Muppets like lore that where it's like, oh, he's not like famous sleazy actor pig. He's just been their security guard the whole time. That's funny.
He
Um,
runs poor security. He's got to get a new day job.
that's it seems like where we're fucking at with him. But I love the Miss Piggy pinup calendar that was in there. I remember distinctly being like, I have to take a fucking photo of this one because like I the fact that they still have that over all the years, it felt so Jim because it was from an era where Piggy really was treated like a star like that.
Yeah. And like it's you talk about the idea of Muppet chaos and it's like, oh, there's a lot going on, but it's kind of like all serves a purpose. Nowhere is that more present in the pre-show room.
Oh my fucking god. Like the pre-show room for Muppet Vision, it like Disney, I think, does a really great job in terms of like the cues and the pre-show elements of these of all of their rides, really immersing you before you even step onto the ride. But like when you go into the Muppet Vision 3D pre-show room, you really feel like you're backstage at the Muppet Theater, that you got ushered in behind the scenes and you have all of their different props and all the different Muppets and all their different things. It doesn't feel like, oh, Disney created a thing where you feel like you're in the Muppet back room. It's like, oh no, you're quite literally Kermit couldn't get the front door open, so you're in here in the back. Like fucking you're stuck here fucking Beauregard sweeping shit next to you type feeling.
I just like the fact that it's a big messy storeroom and even like the entrance ways look like unfinished bits of a sound stage, like the red lights and everything, and now you have to have like faces drawn on over the lights and stuff. And it's just all so messy and chaotic and it's really wonderful. Just being able to I guess it's like kind of the room of jingling keys. But I'm sorry, I'll always be entertained just by being
I'm
able to
like,
point and look at
look
everything
at
like,
that, that's
oh,
Muppets.
it's Fozzie's rubber chickens. Oh, it's Gonzo's like flight suits. Oh, it's Piggy's
Dude,
boxes of like sh shoes and stuff. And it's like I eat it up. I
all of
eat it
those
up and I will
things.
continue to.
Like I had so much fun walking around to each element of this pre-show room and being like, oh my God, that's this thing. This is that Muppet reference. Holy shit. Like it was a level of detail where I'm like, wow, I care about the Muppets and I care about like all of them being represented accurately. And the fact that all of the Muppets and all of the elements that make the Muppet Show special were seen on display. It didn't even feel necessarily like Disney corporate version of the Muppets. It feels like 70s era Jim Henson Muppets, where it's like, this is the Muppet Theater. This is where they've been at. This is like all the props that have been here for a long ass time. I love that they kept it largely like unchanged throughout the years. And the fact that Jim and the creatives behind Muppet Vision had the fucking wherewithal to add all of these elements so early on in the Muppet Vision run is crazy to me that they went
Yeah.
and did all of these details meticulously.
Um, I gotta say, like of all of the details in it, I guess there's loads of fun details. Like there's like the Mayhem's like setup box, and there's like
Oh
the
yeah.
posters for like some of the like Muppet versions of movies. Even like Kermit's tux from 2011 in the little glass
Oh,
case
I
on
was
his
about to say that was one of the coolest things to see because like yeah, this is literally the tuxedo Kermit wore in the movie. Like we get to see a real Muppet prop. That's awesome.
As much as I love all of those little details, my favorite detail personally, right up at the top, right up at the ceiling,
Oh,
portrait
yes.
of Country Trio Jim.
Absolutely. Oh my God. Seeing that for the first time when I got to go to Muppet Vision again as an adult, I cried when I saw it. Like, I just started crying.
Yeah, me too.
Like,
Me too.
it's
No
the fact that
shame.
it's not just Jim, but the Country Trio version where Disney's never acknowledged fucking Country Trio. I think that's like one of the most touching tributes I've ever seen for Jim Henson. The fact that he's just in the rafters looking down from heaven on his final project, like, oh my God.
He gets to watch over every audience that comes through those doors, and that's a really beautiful little detail that they added that
The
I really
fact
think solidifies the whole thing as that this is Jim's. This really is.
it doesn't feel like, because, with the new Muppet show that just came out with Sabrina Carpenter, they make a distinct effort where they don't call them Jim Henson's The Muppets anymore. They call them like the Muppet properties owned by the Disney Corporation or some shit. But when you saw Jim Henson looking down and just get like Jim Henson looking down on each audience that passes through those doors, seeing through and like stewarding each person through Muppet Vision like that. His spirit, his energy, his like everything that felt so genuine and earnest and not Disney corporate. Like that shit felt true, earnest tribute to Jim, and I'm very thankful that we got to experience that.
Yeah. And I think it's a testament to the whole of Muppet Vision. It doesn't feel like neatly or delicately arranged, I guess, in that way. It kind of feels messy and sort of like thrown together in a way that the Muppets would. Um,
You,
it's just
you
yeah.
know,
I just think it's again, the inside of the ride goes hand in hand with the excellent outside theming as well.
I think that the outside theming in terms of like um, the pre-show is super interesting to me itself because like you are ushered into this room where you walk by all of like the Muppets lab doors and you get to like really get like, oh my God, I'm walking in the Muppet theater. But they first usher you into that like back storage room area and they show you on a series of TVs mounted to the fucking ceiling uh awesome recorded like 80s Muppet pre-show things where I'm not again, I think we spent a lot of time going over history and stuff, but what was really beautiful to me about the pre-shows is that they were largely recorded after Jim's passing, and Frank Oz is the one who directed all of the pre-show elements for Muppet Vision 3D. And every part of the pre-show feels like Frank giving his last like hug to the Muppets, his last like major because obviously he was still like voicing Piggy in Muppet and further Muppet projects like in the Brian Henson era. He was obviously still involved, but like this was the last time Frank Oz got to work on a major project with Jim Henson, and I think that pre-show, that last bit where he got to contribute to the Jim Henson era of the Muppets, it just like that whole pre-show feels like a warm hug, and Frank really like stewarding this era on to the next era.
Yeah, and talking about the pre-show, like again, dare I say, is one of the best like pre-shows for a ride ever.
I
Just
can't
because
think of a
I
better
just
one,
I really enjoy the way that it's like it's all on three screens, but it utilizes the fact that it's on three screens.
dude.
Like specifically the bits where it's like the contractors like having to paint the like background
Yeah,
and then like he pulls that and then it's like the ocean scene. Um
I love the
Gonzo
ocean.
the three Gonzos
Dun,
doing
dun, 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 dun.
with the
I
flower
love
pots in
it.
their hair. It's just brilliant. And then there's
It's
three Gonzos now, and it's like, of course there are. It's
when
just
you
it's just absolute brilliance, and
when you
I just
look
think it
around and see
utilizes the three screen structure really well.
I think looking around and seeing three Gonzos is the funniest fucking thing ever. When you like to when it switches and there's just hella Gonzos all over the room, you're like, oh my God, this is the most Gonzo shit ever to just multiply like this. Um,
Also, like the bit where like The bit where Bean gets like punched across the room and he's just like going from TV to
Yeah.
TV really seamlessly. It's just absolute genius.
Can I say
It's
I
some of the funniest Muppet stuff, not even just because of like the physical stuff that they're utilizing three screens, but just the dialogue is absolutely brilliant and just so perfectly Muppety.
Dude, it's so fucking. They have like however much time to usher people in. It's like they use the pre-show like while the actual Muppet Vision is going on to
Mm.
like. So you hypothetically, when you go into that, when you would go into that room, you're watching all these pre-show things, and you're basically getting a whole other show of Muppet things, all just like exclusive to this little area before you watch the show itself. And like, I've had the like again the privilege to like go on some theme park rides and shit. I'll just be real. I'm not even just saying this because of my Muppet biases. The Muppet Vision pre-show was the greatest theme park pre-show in theme park history. I fucking cannot stand the amount of times I go to a theme or like the amount of times I've been to a theme park or whatever. And it's just like, whoa, this thing went crazy. Looks like we're gonna have to save the day, guys. Why don't you follow me in here? No, no, no. Or it's fucking like you go to Universal and it's like, The Simpsons has a pretty fun one where it's like referencing the old fucking Back to the Future ride that was there. But I would say generally, no other ride. And if people can fucking make their argument for whatever ride, I don't care. I would say personally, ain't a single one out there that had a good pre-show to the level that Muppet Vision did. Directed by Frank Oz, written by Jerry Jewell, like one of the most beautiful. Like it just felt so Muppety. And like we have talked about Gonzo with the flower pots because that was phenomenal. I saw someone on the last day dressed as Gonzo with the flower pot, which I thought was so cute. And they nailed doing the dances like on sync without looking at the screen, which was like really great. Um,
Right.
but like, there's one part of the pre-show that I think is the most iconic and the part that I think is the funniest. Like,
Oh, I know
and
what you're saying.
dude, we've neglected to talk about it, but the fucking Sam Eagle Rizzo Rich Matt that whole bit, some of the funniest goddamn Muppet jokes ever.
It was all so quick-witted. And what I loved about the pre-show is that you didn't just feel like you were sitting around waiting for Muppet Vision to start. It really felt
Yes.
like you were just watching its own separate thing. When I went, there were people who would like get in to like they would like come into the ride and the pre-show would be halfway through. Like when the ride opened, they would stay in the pre-show room so that they could wait to watch the pre-show from the beginning because
It's
they
like
missed the
you
first half
can't
of it.
miss that.
Like it's truly its own like comedic experience. And even then, like I have so much to say about how Muppet Vision, like the actual ride, functioned and its brilliance. But the fact that they were even able to like capture like a slither of that in the pre-show by having it be a three monitor setup, having that be part of the comedy but also having it be genuinely entertaining in its own right to the point where you want to watch the whole thing. Like I can't think of any like ride pre-shows or like ride like preambles that I would actually want to stay for the whole thing.
Dude, I can't think of a single one. And like what I loved about Muppet Vision and the pre-show is that, there was a rumor back in 2014 when the ride was still open that they were re-recording and doing a new pre-show with Matt Vogel's Kermit and now to like with Muppets 2014 and 2015 happening. That was like a rumor at the time that never happened and wasn't like
Wouldn't it have been
fulfilled.
Whitmire at the time?
I think it was like right after Whitmire like left or it was like taken off of the Muppets.
All right.
Like I'm pretty sure it was, or I can't remember the exact timeline, but there was a time where I remember what it was. I was confusing. It was the Whitmire time, but they were gonna record Constantine fucking bits for the ride,
No,
where it
they
was
did do
gonna be
that.
like,
They did do
did
that.
they?
They did, yeah. They did like in the like the build up to Most Wanted, they'd filmed little Constantine bits and they put him in one of the sections of the pre-show.
Oh, that's great. Okay, lovely. But regardless, all
They also
that's
did the
all.
same thing when Muppet's Haunted Mansion was coming out. They put a little
Oh, I
Pepe
loved
segment in
that.
there to like promote
I
Muppet Haunted Mansion coming out soon.
See, all that, like, regardless to say that, like, they could have refilmed these things. The point I'm trying to make is that they could have refilmed, they could have reshot, they could have in every newer era of the Muppets redone the pre-show like they usually do on every other Disney ride. Like I think most of the time when it becomes and when shit gets into a modern era, Disney I think often does not trust the thing that it was before to not look dated when they don't realize the charm of it is like how earnest and like nostalgic and like vintage it looks. There was not a single part of me in the entire time I was watching that pre-show that I felt it was dated. It looked fantastic. It held up. All the jokes still hit. And like I was able to watch the pre-show with two distinct different groups. One day with like Disney fans who weren't specifically there for the Muppet Vision last day, and then the last day with like mega hardcore Muppet fans. What blew me away was that even on the day, like on the day where it wasn't Muppet fans expecting these jokes and like who have heard these jokes a million times and like still love them, there were so many like families. I saw so many like families with children genuinely laughing at these jokes like they had heard it for the first time. And it fucking made me emotional because I was like, you're gonna have such this successful of a fucking of a pre-show like this something this entertaining that you're not even this isn't even the full ride but this is already so successfully entertaining. What a travesty that they're fucking removing that. Like it was so good.
Genuinely fantastic pre-show, which all of it led to something that managed to surpass it. Just like I like, oh my God, I can't talk about it without just like going into a full-on ramble. But I've said it before and I will say it again. I genuinely think that the film Muppet Vision 3D represents like the kind of the best of Muppets. It's kind of like
Oh,
it
100%.
is as a piece so representative of who the Muppets are and what they were under Jim's leadership. It's kind of like the exemplary like Muppet media to me. Like I don't think it's the best piece of Muppet media ever made because there are some that are, like have a lot more depth and a lot more like cultural relevance and a lot more impact. But in terms of like really capturing the Muppets in a bottle, Muppet Vision.
I think that when they had a very, restricted amount of time for this. It's not a Muppet movie that's 2 hours long. It's not a Muppet Show episode that's the expected 30 minutes. It's like a 17-minute window, I'm pretty sure, from like pre-show to end, where they really this is in my opinion, as Will said, there's so many other Muppet things that have more cultural relevance and more impact, good like in the grand scheme of things, whatever. But I think this is the most tightly written Muppet script that has ever been produced within like the entirety of the Muppet like plethora of things that they did. I think the set design is phenomenal. I think it's representative of all of the decades they did of set design up until then. I think the fact that it's shot on a legitimate film camera, they actually recorded this beautiful, beautiful film. Like, I think that like that is so emblematic and so representative that Jim Henson, you know, wanted something so high quality that would stand the test of time, something that would stay like Jim recognized that children, adults, everyone, when something has that quality and that like clear, earnest attempt, a genuine, beautiful thing, that will always last so much longer than whatever like readily made, easily fucking produced corporate thing that comes out. Like Disney could have so easily re-recorded Muppet Vision on fucking green screens with a shitty camera and passed it off and been like, this is fine. But this is not emblematic of Disney. This is emblematic of the Henson era, specifically Jim's vision for the Muppets.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think you are absolutely right, and I think that's a good observation about the script. It's one of the most like never gives you time to rest funny things that the Muppets have ever done. It's just like joke, joke, but it's not just like joke, 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 and hoping that some of them land. It's like really good joke that lands, really good joke that lands, really good joke that lands, set up for a joke, really good joke that lands. It just like it kind
It's
of blows my mind to think about how the hell did they pull this off.
Dude, it's like the last thing Henson ever worked on. Henson was going to the end of his life. He was tired of doing Muppet projects. He was trying to get back into creative control in a way where he wasn't so swamped with all the corporate shit. all of his Muppet associates and everything were kind of doing other projects and like going off and doing other things. For this to be as tight as it is, for all of it to feel as Muppety as it does, for it to just be so representative of that era of Henson, it felt like all of the people involved, from Frank Oz to Jim Henson to every person involved, that this was like they all, even though like I don't think any of them knew that this was going to be the last major Muppet thing that Jim Henson worked on. There is a part where it feels like I think they at least recognize that this was like the last piece of this era of Henson. We're about to get Waldo technology and like Jim's going off on all these different ventures. He's quite literally selling the Muppets. Like this, I think, was the last time where a lot of the people involved felt like, yo, this is our last hurrah for this specific Jim era of the Muppets. And I think that really is felt in how fucking perfect this script is.
It's like obviously what like if you are that invested in Muppet Vision, you probably have either gone to see it or seen a camera up of it. We're not gonna do like the play by play. I just want to
No.
talk about like a couple of my favorite moments from it.
Oh, me
Because
too.
there are moments that it's like the part of the amazingness for it for me was how it toes the line between just like being like a 3D film and just like the immersiveness of it all, and it really feels like you're experiencing not just like, oh, we're not here to just to sit and watch a film. You're here and you're part of a tech demonstration gone wrong, and it's impacting
Yes.
on you in the real world. um the big hard hitting thing for me that I would like the fact that this was like the ultimate way for the Muppets to be actualized in the park, because I'm gonna say something that I feel like is pretty non-controversial because other people have pointed it out. The roller coaster, it's a downgrade, especially in the sense that it's much less accessible than
Oh,
Muppet
yeah.
Vision. Not everybody who loves the Muppets can ride a roller coaster.
Will and I'm so glad that you brought this up because I think we've both been waiting to say this shit.
Yep.
Um,
We're
a
not trying to shit on the rock and roller coaster here because it is still something we're
No.
really excited for. But writings on the wall, it's a downgrade on like a Muppet Vision format thing because
Yo,
anybody can go and do that.
it's not even just that Muppet Vision is like filmed on a film camera and has all these Muppet elements that we love as Muppet fans. It's like it's all of that shit aside. What was beautiful about Muppet Vision is that it was representative of the morals and the ideals that Henson set out so clearly throughout his career. Is that Muppets and stuff like this that is high quality and beautifully made, often with great education and great morals and all that stuff, should be accessible to everyone, regardless of race, gender, background, orientation, all of that shit. Like, you should have access to all of that because you're a human being and Muppets are about humanity. And, like, I, you know, Rock and Roller Coaster was a ride that I enjoyed growing up. I think my two favorite rides in Hollywood studios were Muppet Vision and Rock and Roller Coaster. Um, but but Rock and Roller Coaster has three inversions. It's a very rough roller coaster. It hasn't been retracked in like 20 years. It is something that was already Disney fans were looking at and being like, this thing is on its like last leg. It's super rough. It's like super like not, it's stuck in the past, whatever. I think the main point that Will and I are trying to make, I'm sure Will emphasize this even more, is that Muppet Vision was fully accessible. If you had like any form of disability, if you were like somebody in need of like special care, if you're somebody who's even just afraid of fucking roller coasters, it's like you could enjoy Muppet Vision. You could, during the Florida rain, it was beyond just like a place where you could dip out and like not get dumped on. It was a place that was like so accessible to everyone. It was literally all people. If you're in a wheelchair, if you're disabled, if you have like mental struggles, it's like any fucking person can go into Muppet Vision. Not every person can ride a three inversion roller coaster. I would say that a lot of the population can. Like, besides like little children, people with disabilities, seniors, like so many, like, there are so many groups being cut out of the equation with this. And I just think that Muppets are not that. Muppets are about accessibility.
Literally. And it's like I'm iffy on roller coasters. I'm better with indoor roller coasters personally. Like I could not ride the Incredicoaster, but I love the
Hmm.
Mummy.
It's California
So
Screaming to me forever. I don't fuck with this Incredicoaster shit. California Screaming will always be the better thing.
I don't know it by any other name. A coaster by any other name should be just as sweet, surely not. Um, but like, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it's a step down because anybody can go and sit in a Muppet Vision pretty much. And not only just like, and I feel like in terms of representing the Muppets, a sit down show, which is kind of what the Muppets are historically known for, because
It's the Muppet
if
Theater.
you're not sat in the audience for the Muppet Show or watching the Muppet Show, you're sat in a theater watching a Muppet movie. What about
Yes,
that screams roller coaster?
dude. And it's like, I know so many fucking Disney fans were like, why didn't they make a power line ride or whatever? For me,
Oh my
it's not
God.
even about fucking whatever. It's not even about like the specific IP that's involved with like the roller coaster. For me, it's like you had this perfect thing that was accessible to everyone, that was made as the last final legacy of the one of the greatest creatives in human history. And then you're just like, all right, we'll take the aging, shitty, I mean, kind of, the aging roller coaster with the controversial nowadays band, and just be like, slap Muppets on it. Like, I'm sure the Imagineers and a lot of people who were involved did put a lot of effort into so many elements of this. I'm not just trying to like shit on every single person who was like involved in making this, but like, if we're gonna sit here and act like this is like at all on the same level of Muppet Vision, even if they have great animatronics, great theming, all of that shit, this will never compare to Muppet Vision 3D.
Yeah. And it is just a fact of the matter that I will never back down on that. I could go and ride that roller coaster and think it's the best roller coaster I've ever ridden on.
Yeah,
It still won't hold a candle to me.
dude, it literally doesn't feel like a genuine like attempt at like a revival for the Muppets or like Muppets having. It felt like Muppets are being taken away from Muppet Vision 3D, and then they saw I don't know if this is the exact thing. Like I could just be speaking out of my ass here, but to me, it seems like they saw the massive response from the last day of Muppet Vision, and like the absolute sheer like, oh my god, Muppet fans are packing the park multiple times before the closure, like for this stuff. Um, there's just like a part of me that feels like they slapped this onto Rock and Roller Coaster because they were like, oh God, we can't use Aerosmith anymore, but I don't want to spend the money like creating a whole new ride or retracking this thing or whatever. Let's just put some Muppets on there.
I don't know if that's true because they did announce the Rock and Roller Coaster Takeover on the same day that they announced that Muppet Vision was closing at all.
Well, I guess the point I'm trying to make is that like it's just like a lazy retheme, like it's just like a quick lazy like
I
retheme where like
I
they
think
didn't
they
like
from what we've seen so far, it looks like they're putting a lot of attention to detail in the retheme, and it looks like there's a lot of care in the retheme, like new animatronics and new layouts and new theming and stuff. I just still in the camp
I
that
would
it will never be
disagree.
the
I'm
concept of
sorry.
like translating the Muppets to the Disney parks and not having it be a sit-in show just feels like a misstep. No, I was
Yeah.
gonna say failure, but that feels like a bit harsh. It's a
And
misstep, in my opinion.
I would just disagree in the sense of like I just don't think that I think the quality of like the animatronics, like the new scooter animatronic is really great and stuff. But from what I've seen, I just don't feel like they're changing enough of Rock and Roller Coaster to make it Muppety enough. To me, it's just like such like a lazy, quick retheme.
I mean, I'm still an insane conspiracy theorist that we're gonna get Muppet Courtyard too. I think
Dude, I hope so.
that villain show better be on its fucking way out,
I
so we
just
have
don't
a vacant theater.
understand why the fuck there's a villain show. Like I know that was pre like the change of Rock and Roller Coaster, but I'm like even with Rock and Roller Coaster with Aerosmith, the fucking villain show being there is insane. I just think that like also another thing in terms of Muppet Vision itself, we've talked of like we've brought up like parts of this script that are emblematic. And I think Will brought up a really, really good point about how the Muppets being in a theater and Muppet Vision, like that is so representative of how the Muppets are and was such the most accessible way, not only for people, whether they have like a disability or something, but like if you don't know jack shit about the Muppets, the first thing that probably comes to mind is like, oh, the Muppets are like it's the Muppet Show, and you're in the fucking theater, and you have like the red curtains and all those things. Like I think it's such a a misstep because you get that distinct visual communication of what the Muppets are, and then you just throw that away for like Rock and Roller Coaster, but with the Muppets. We're in this era where everything is with the Muppets. Just fucking give me the Muppets.
The thing about the Rock and Roller Coaster is that I probably wouldn't even be mad about it existing if we still had Muppet Vision.
A
I'd be
hundred
like, that's
percent.
really cool.
If
But
Muppet Vision still existed, I'd be like, dude, let's go, more Muppet
mm,
representation.
yeah, to me, the sit down theater experience was the perfect like translation for it. And one of the biggest things that stuck out to me about that is the fact that you've got an animatronic Statler and Waldorf up in the theater box,
Dude,
heckling
that
and like still emoting and moving throughout the whole show.
like
Incredible.
I get that the Statler and Waldorf are going to be put in the new fucking Rock and Roller Coaster thing, but yeah, that's kind of funny. But the whole thing with them is being in the theater heckling the show. The fact that you got to experience that, and like Muppet fans, like regardless, the general public, that is one of the things that they know about the Muppets and think is funny. Is that people like if even if they're not massive fans, they're like, oh, the two fucking old guys on the balcony are like really funny. And so to experience that in the theater where you're fucking getting to see the Muppets have like try their hardest and then fail like they always do, and then fucking having the actual Statler and Waldorf like heckling and in real time, it hit so hard.
Their input throughout the show is genuinely some of the highlights of it. Just
It's
like them being activated at the beginning, and you see like the little curtain pop over, and you see them like already like not only interacting with the show itself, but interacting with the audience, and it's like, wow, they're really up there.
Can I say there's two jokes that I think Disney, I don't know if they do again, that I think there's two jokes within Muppet Vision that I think are so representative of the Jim Henson era that really feels like the Henson people were able to, like, with their creative control, get these things done that Disney wouldn't necessarily do now. There's that bit where Statler and Waldorf are like, hey, look at that guy in the goofy mask. And they're just like, that's not a man. Like, that's whatever. Like, that's a lady. Like, oh, sorry, lady. Or like, that's a human, not a goofy mask. That's their real face. Sorry, lady. I
Timeless.
think
I'm sorry, it's still funny.
timeless. So
Timeless.
funny. I think Disney would not risk like Universal used to have a joke on the backlot tour where they'd have like one of the fucking Fast and the Furious people like it'd be like, yeah, to the lady in row 3, I'll get your number later. But they like remove that shit because I think Disney like Universal was like, I don't know, they're like hitting on the person. I think the joke of like insult, like being like, oh, like look at this ugly person. Oh, that's not a mask. That's how they actually look. Oh shit, sorry, lady. I don't know if Disney would do that nowadays.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's part of the sort of like tongue-in-cheekness that they were able to get across gracefully. I don't know. I think it still works nowadays for
I
sure.
think it works perfectly. I just don't think Disney would like do
But
it again.
it's just them
I
interacting with the film in real time. It's just like them still heckling Fozzie, who's just like he's a projection on the screen, and they're still getting under his skin.
is so perfect. I think like another thing that like absolutely kills me and like speaks to like the earnestness of this show and like yes, it's packed wall to the wall with jokes. There's like jokes to every single second of this thing, but it really communicates the deep care and the love that Jim and all of these people had for these characters. Like a lot of the times puppeteering them for the last time, there's this one moment when after like in that whole time where Fozzie's interacting with Statler and Waldorf, um Fozzie has like the banana cream pie and then he has like the fucking flour that sprays the audience. There's this one moment where Kermit just goes, Fozzie, that's terrible. Like he doesn't make a joke. It's not over exaggerated. It's just this very earnest, like, oh, Fozzie, that's terrible. Like, oh, it's so
Oh,
cute. It kills me.
and then immediately Fozzie's like, "Yep, needs more sugar," and
Needs
it's
more
like,
sugar.
bro does not give a fuck. Kermit's
Fozzie,
trying his
that's.
absolute best, and this guy is like, "I refuse to stop being silly
It's.
even for two
I
seconds."
think. that's one of the most well voice acted Jim Henson moments to me in the entirety of his run as Kermit was like literally it's so it takes almost takes me out of Muppet Vision for a second because it's just so like you forget that this is like Kermit even trying to host Muppet Vision. Literally feels like oh my God, he's speaking to his friend Fozzie on like on a very like in a way of like, hey, I'm pulling you aside after, dude. Are you good? Like that kind of level.
I genuinely,
Fozzie.
I think I have to agree with you. This Muppet Vision was some of Jim's best voice work as Kermit.
Oh
Like
my
even just
God,
his
that's
like
terrible.
his little yelps when he like avoids the
Yes.
ironing board and then the big like a piece of electrical apparatus in Muppet Labs.
Dude.
And even then just the way he says Muppet Vision 3D. There's
So
just
the
something
way
distinctly different about the way that he does it. 3D. And it's like
I just
there's something so charming about it. You've charmed me, Kermit.
dude, I just agree with you so much in the way that you brought up that it feels slightly different the way he normally puppeteers Kermit. You feel like there's this energy and this renewed sense of purpose with Kermit. Almost like Jim, like now that he's in this position where he's like gonna send the Muppets to Disney. He can like engage with Kermit again, just being a creative. Like, I honestly like, and I don't know if this will be fucking crazy to say, but the way he's puppeteering Kermit, the way he's voice acting, it's like the most energy that he's puppeteered Kermit in, like since before Sesame Street. Like, this is some like fucking Kermit from like the 50s and like the early 60s ass. Like, the way he's just so balls to the like I feel like the puppeteering is a little less like reined in like the best way possible. I feel like he's really giving Kermit so much expression and so much emoting in this, and like really letting Kermit just be kind of silly and like not doing the Kermit of like, oh, Kermit's just trying to get the whole fucking thing going and like the show back together. And like, it's going to be Muppets Take Manhattan where he yells at all the Muppets like he does in at least once every Muppet. It's like, no, Kermit just kind of like, yep, that shit's going wrong, man. But I'm so happy to be here. I'm
Well,
just
it
happy to fucking be here.
definitely feels very early Muppet Show. And like he kind of had a similar energy on Sesame Street where he was just like kind of a victim to his circumstances. Um, but like yeah, I don't know, there was just a renewed sense of Kermit in this. What I did find very interesting about Muppet Vision was that it was kind of a really big springboard for Steve Whitmire as a member of the court cast because they made Bean Bunny this sort of relatively new character to, I guess, Muppet canon, put him in a really prominent position, and then had him play this new character that is kind of like key to the ride. It was kind
Waldo
of
C.
like a
graphic.
interesting to see that as like as like a springboard for him to who would go on to take on Kermit. So it was like, yeah, it's really show us what you got type moment.
I think this is like very, again, representative of this distinct era that we've been referencing throughout,
Mm.
and how this is also representative of the era that we did not get with Henson. So, like, let's picture this for a second. I'm just going to run a hypothetical for our audience real quick. Let's say Jim Henson survives. Obviously, Jim Henson, in the future, might have like picked a puppeteer. Like, it's talked about that he had already kind of planned as Steve to be the person who takes over after, like while he was still alive, before he ever even like came close to death like that. But let's say Henson survives. Let's say that like Kermit is continued to be played by Jim into the Disney era. That the sale goes through and that all of these things happen and whatnot. Being Bunny being in this is so distinct to me because Bean really was supposed to be like the next big character specifically created by Jim for Steve Whitmire to have like this popular big fucking character so he could pull back from Kermit and he could focus his attention on Kermit not just being like the cutest one in the group or like having to do all the things that he doesn't want to do. It's like he gets to just be Kermit in the truest, most Jim Henson version of himself. And so for being Bunny to be in this and have such a prominent role, because after this, like, he's in fucking Christmas Carol, whatever, Bean Bunny is like pretty non-existent from the rest of the Muppet shit going on. This is so representative to me of what could have been because it really feels like, okay, this fucking show feels like if Henson survived, he would have continued being Kermit. Bean would have been this massively popular character that they were trying to push and kind of take in the place of Kermit. And that all of these things that are now we look at as like Steve Whitmire takes over Kermit, Bean Bunny kind of falls to the wayside, all of that. I think Muppet Vision is the greatest representation of what could have been if Jim did not pass.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it was clear they were setting up Bean for bigger things because of like they put him in Henson Hour so much. They set him up really well in the sort of like the little short film that they made to sort of hard launch Disney's partnership with the
Fucking
Muppets. The Muppets Go to Walt Disney World. They made a big deal about the fact that, oh yeah, we hired Bean to be cute so that none of us have to. Like they clearly meant for bigger things for Bean, and this is kind of like this was like his big break type thing, and it's kind of sad that it didn't really go much further after that. Like they used him for a couple things, but not really in a meaningful way. Um,
dude, if you
yeah,
watched
like
Muppet Vision, oh sorry.
oh no, no, you're fine.
I was gonna say if you watched Muppet Vision and you didn't really know anything else about the Muppets, and that was like your only exposure from seeing it at the park, you would think Bean Bunny is like a huge character. You would think that he's like a super prominent part of the Muppet cast, but it's only in the year 2026 that have they finally recasted Bean Bunny and even fucking they didn't even like include him voice acting in the new special, but like this is like the first time we've seen Bean like since the Muppet Vision era.
Yeah. It's just like, yeah, you could see that he was clearly meant for bigger things than the last sort of like 20 something years have given to him. And it sucks. It sucks to see. But, I think Bean was
Yeah.
great in this. And okay, I got something to say. Again, another controversial statement. But I see Muppet fans sharing an opinion all the time, and I don't like it very much. And I got
Is
something to
it
say about it.
Is it that either Bean or Waldo are too annoying in the special?
People are so fucking cruel to Waldo C. Graphic. A little
Mm,
man
speak on it.
whose biggest crime was wanting to be alive, wanting to not get killed. His biggest crime was wanting to live. Yeah, sure, okay, he was a little annoying about it. Would you think it was annoying if you got brought to life, did a little dance,
And
and then somebody tried to kill you immediately? Wouldn't you think that was pretty annoying? I'm a
I
Waldo C.
think,
Graphic truther. I'm a Waldo C. Graphic enjoyer, and I won't hear any more of this shit like, "Ooh, he's annoying. He's got a grating voice." Have you considered that you're factually wrong? Have you considered that I
dude,
personally have a problem with you now? Have you thought about that? No, you
Waldo,
didn't. You didn't think about that because you don't think about anything except yourself. What you should be thinking
Wal,
about is Waldo C. Graphic.
you should be thinking about this motherfucking blue awesome creature that was gone too soon and was never given the fucking respect it deserves. I think Waldo, every time I bring up Muppet Vision, it's always that thing where it's like, it's pretty good, but like, damn, Waldo, like so annoying. I just can't get over Waldo, Waldo, Waldo. I I'm right there with Will. I don't fucking see that. There wasn't a bone in my body watching this special when we both like the times we had gone and see this, whatever. When I had seen Muppet Vision, there was not a part of me that was like, damn, Waldo's taking me out of this. Waldo is like so annoying to the point where it's bringing me out of my enjoyment for this thing. No, no, and I love how representative Waldo is for that era of Henson technology wise that we like that was so like innovative.
It was groundbreaking. But no, people want to be like, "Oh, Waldo's ugly. Oh, Waldo's irritating. Oh, Waldo's annoying." Have you considered that I will attack you with weaponry?
It's crazy because everyone's like, yeah, Waldo's like voice is a little bit grating, and I'm like, I have a gun and I am going to shoot you. Like that's
Everybody is so bold talking about Waldo like this. Like I'm not
yeah.
going like
It's
get
fucked up
like I'm
because
not
it's
going to
like
get them.
it's crazy because I have a car and I will mow you down. And like I think people aren't considering that when talking about Waldo C. Graphic, and I find
No.
that concerning.
And it's just like from Muppet fans, these are just some of the things that you should consider. You should just consider
Yeah.
how you talk about Waldo C. Graphic and in what
Yeah.
context you do. Like
Yeah. And
complimentary or nothing. Sorry. Don't be
I was
fucking
about to say,
disrespectful because I will know about it.
yeah, if it ever gets back to me that someone's disrespecting Waldo, I'm going on a hunt like fucking Jason Bourne. I'm going on this shit until you're done.
I
So
will
like
John
I
Wick upon thee.
yeah, no, exactly. It's like I'll John Wick you if you say anything about fucking Waldo. Like I'll John Wick your ass.
Okay,
Waldo
but
also, Will and I together at the same time had the very fucking pleasure of meeting Waldo C. Graphic at the Museum of the Moving Image behind the glass.
Yeah, it
Um,
had his little the little Waldo rig. Love that.
I
I love
love that
the fascinating thing about the
Disney
Waldo rig is that prior to it being used for like the digital puppetry like that, it was actually used for animatronics, like for the operating of animatronics for practical puppetry in a few circumstances, such as the Doozers in Fraggle Rock.
isn't pretty sure
Some
Junior Gorg as well.
some Gorg stuff, some like of the facial bits. One of the another ones was that they occasionally used it for wide shots of Kermit in Manhattan.
Yes. And you
And
can tell that the Kermit on the fucking fire truck at the end of the thing is being
yep, and
Waldo
there as well, they
so
used the
easily.
Waldo rig to do the animatronics on Kermit's mouth.
Like, I think it's insanely interesting to me that now that they're making a scooter, or they have made a scooter animatronic for the new rock and roller coaster, that they released behind the scenes imagery of Scooter in one of those like ball suits, like where they're like tracking his fucking movements to input it into the thing. I think it's actually like such the scooter animatronic is such proof of where we have like gone to in the future of animatronics and everything, that before it was a lot more rudimentary but still very innovative of Jim Henson puppeteering this like this little rig, the Waldo rig, and then it translating onto the thing, where now it seems like they're recording the movements of it and like programming it into the fucking thing itself versus like recording the movements physically, which I find like very cool and innovative.
The last big thing I want to talk about, it's again not even like the film specific, but my probably one of my favorite details about Muppet Vision is the fact that halfway through they misplaced one of their cast members, Bean Bunny, and they all got to go out and around to look for him. They got to look all around the screen, and one of them takes the search quite thoroughly. I
Yes.
I didn't know that Sweetums comes out into into the theater. I
Really?
didn't know that. And I
Oh my
freaked out
God.
because Sweetums is one of my favorite Muppets, has been since I saw the Muppet movie for the first time. Seeing Sweetums like come out like into the theater, like first of all, that's brilliant. Second of all,
Yes.
it's just like it just pisses me off because it's like, oh yeah, it's just a 3D show. No, it's just it's the amount of detail that went into this. Like having a Muppet physically come out and search for another Muppet that just so happens to be an animatronic up in the other theater stand. Like, come on, don't piss me off. You
What
should be
I ab
glazing this the way that I'm glazing it.
dude, dude, the fact that it's like not just a Disney like a costume, because Disney does the whole costume shit for so many of their characters, whatever. I what blew me away about Sweetums coming out, and you get to see the Sweetums puppet, like the Sweetums suit and everything. They specifically would train the cast members who were playing Sweetums by Henson. Like the Henson Company would train these fucking people so they could accurately portray Sweetums to be in that Henson way and not just feel like someone in a mascot suit. So like when you would see Sweetums running out into the theater, that literally was like the closest you'd get to seeing Sweetums played by a real Henson puppeteer live. Like it was so impressive. And like I love the suit. It was like, damn, they used that suit for so long every day and it still looked amazing. I'm sure they did refurbishments, of course, but it looked so accurate to the Sweetums puppet suit in the movies.
It looks great. I'll be honest with you. I'm a little jealous of some of our companions who got to
Sam
have
Muppet's
those.
mine.
Yeah, fuck you, Sam, if you're listening.
No, Sam, love you, but give me that. Give me
No,
that. Give me
I
that.
hate
Give me
your
that.
ass. You may be an
No.
incredibly sweet and kind, wonderful human being, but I have personal beef with you due to the fact that you got to have a photo with the Sweetums
Yeah.
mascot costume. And when I asked, they said they can't do that.
Oh yeah, when I asked, they were like, they were very kind about it, but they gave me a very professional, like, not a
Yeah,
fucking
they were like,
chance.
no,
Like,
yeah, we don't do that, I'm afraid. And I was like, I know
yeah,
you're
they
lying,
told
but I
me.
can't prove it.
For me, yeah, they were straight up like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, that's not something we do," and I'm like, "That's bullshit.
Oh, you're
I
fucking
know
lying. So
many
let's just jot
people
that one down.
like
What are you
I
hiding? Where is he? Where is he?
I I love Sweetums in this one. I also think it's really cute that they included Sweetums. I'm sure they were like, okay, we need to bring out like a puppet into the audience. I think Sweetums was like a very obvious choice, but a perfect choice.
Hmm.
I think that what I like about him too is that he is not one of the like with the new Muppets Rock and Roller Coaster, like obviously they've done like a big push on the mayhem in the last few years and all of that. And like we saw in some of the teasers that they have Muppets like Hilda and shit in the intro and everything, which is like really cool to me. But I
I gotta
think
talk about that
generally
actually. I gotta talk about that real quick. Because there's a Muppet
like
in there that I feel like we're gonna be the first ones to talk about it. Because there's
wait
a Muppet
who?
that shows up in there that I've not seen a damn person mention.
Wait who?
Right, so we saw Hilda in the security camera footage, and we saw Behemoth for a second as well.
Of course.
It's the very last shot where the scooter animatronic faints. I saw
Okay.
I saw someone. A
Who?
Muppets Tonight puppet.
Who?
Dr. Phil Van Neuter's assistant Mulch.
What the fuck?
I
What
saw
the
Mulch on
hell?
those fucking cameras, and I will get proof and I will show it to you when we finish recording,
Dude,
but I'm gonna put it out into the world. Mulch he's there. I'm
Di
fully serious about this.
Disney's like getting rid of the Sweetums fucking the Sweetums walk around thing, but they kept mulch in there. Are you fucking kidding me? We got mulch and
Yeah.
no Sweetums?
The caveat of this is that they have to put the Bunsen and Beaker like little bicycle out roaming around the courtyard now, just to
Oh, they
make up for the
better.
lack of Sweetums character performer and also the unexplained presence of Mulch.
Yeah, the mulch thing is throwing me off pretty hard because it's like, damn, they put the effort to like go and get an obscure ass Muppet pick that like not a ton of people would know. And then get rid of like the most accessible Muppet pick that everyone would know.
It's it's
That's
it's fully true. I'm not even pulling your leg. It's absolutely true. Nobody's mentioned Mulch, but he's there.
nobody's fucking mentioned mulch. That's unfortunate. I think
Zero
that
Mulch mentions. We're gonna be the ones to break it.
we're the mulch fan podcast right now. We're the mulch enjoyers, and all
We
of
are the
you wish
Mulch.
you were on our level.
The thing that sucks about this is that I think cast previews are happening, and like this news is definitely going to get broken. It's going to be like, here's all the details in Rock and Roller Coaster. So by the time that this comes out, we
Yeah,
definitely will
we're
be
gonna be.
outdated. But just know we recorded this on Wednesday, the 20th of, well, technically Tuesday, the 19th of May, because it's the early hours of the morning here. So we recorded this on Tuesday, the 19th of May. As far as
I
you'll know, we got there first.
about to say I don't have like a fucking newspaper to hold up or anything, but I swear that this is the day that Will said.
Yeah, I will just need you to believe me on that one. But
I
that's
I
just
have
the detail I'm
blind
just putting out there in
trust.
the world.
I got blind trust in anything Will says on this podcast, so that's perfect. We can totally rock with that. Um, I just want to say, like, I'm throwing it slightly back to the pre-show. I just wanted to say, like, a joke that I think that Muppet Vision excelled in that again that I don't know if Disney would like necessarily do this joke again. I think there's a tongue-in-cheekness to Muppet Vision 3D and a tongue-in-cheekness to the Muppets in general that Disney I think is not very good at when they like do newer Muppet projects. I think Disney is really bad at insulting themselves. I think one of the fucking things about the Muppets, which is so fun, is that yes, this is all stuff that's so much effort and like love into it, but there's so much charm in them just being come on, like come on, it's the Muppets. Like we can make fun of Jim and Dave and all of these people. Like Jim was perfectly happy to be made fun of by all the Muppets and stuff. Um, I think that the tongue-in-cheekness of the Muppets that Disney doesn't really do anymore is because Disney, yeah, doesn't Disney's like not cool with insulting themselves. Like anything that like goes against the Disney brand and stuff or makes them seem like less of like a good corporation, which they're not, they just don't go for it. They have the joke, the rat schmat, like Rizzo Sam Eagle interaction at the start, where, as many of you know, Sam Eagle is super excited to get everyone to the theater. And oh my God, Mickey Mouse is gonna be there. It's fucking Mickey Mouse, and it's just Rizzo. Hello, welcome to my park.
Still one of the best jokes in the whole thing. Like
So
every time I would go and see it, there was still just like a little round of laughter. It's like
dun, 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 dun.
it's some of the most iconic visuals from the pre-show and from the ride as a whole as well. Like
Dude,
it's like Piggy
Diz
Liberty, Mickey Rizzo. Like,
I think Disney missed the biggest opportunity. One with like Rizzo not really being as relevant past the 90s and everything. I think, and also just Disney not doing their tongue in cheekness. I think they missed a great opportunity to have Rizzo in the marketing of like Hollywood studios and like other elements of Disney, like kind of making fun of the Disney shit a little bit. I think that humanizes that. Disney's always trying to humanize themselves as a corporation. Allow yourselves to be made fun of. I think it was really fucking funny when Rizzo is just like, when he's like, "You are not Mickey Mouse, like you are a rat." Rats, man, what do they know? They're tourists. Like, I like that Rizzo insults the audience. I think like I don't know. I think Disney, there would be somebody on the corporate level that's like, actually, I think it's like not really good for our guest experiences to be insulting the audience. So I think we should avoid something like that. Like,
in
no, this
character. Come on.
it's Henson. That's Henson-y as fuck. I also like in the making of Muppet Vision, like in terms of the great movie Muppet ride they were gonna do. When asked about the ride, Jim Henson didn't go like, "Oh, Disney gave me this beautiful opportunity, and I'm like really trying to like harken back to the elements of this theme park with all, but still referencing the Muppets." He was like, "No, we're doing a really stupid version of what we already have in the park. This is a dumb thing. Like this is a dumb idea." And like I love that. I love that Jim Henson was willing to like insult the shit that he was doing. And it's still like, it all just goes into the earnestness of Henson and the humanizingness of his work that really took him beyond anything corporate that Disney could do.
Hi, so not to kill the momentum of the pod or anything, but this is just an extra bit that we're tacking on to the end because since time of recording, the coaster not only had a bunch of like details come out about it on social media, which kind of set us back a little bit, literally the day after we recorded, but also the coaster is open now and there's millions and millions of people having already talked about it and shared details about it. So we're looking a little bit outdated at the moment.
Yeah, we just recorded so much of this episode. This is a very long episode of A Muppet Moment, clearly. And we just
Yeah.
recorded a bunch about the Rock and Roller Coaster theme, making all of these grand statements about like, oh, is this like a lazy revamp or is this like this and that? The thing is out now. So like all
Yeah.
the shit we just said, I still think there's some validity in our statements, but I think that would be statements we need to amend in the future now that this thing
Mhm.
is out.
Now, I was gonna say, now that we've got solid confirmation about like the state that the ride is in, the fact that like props from Muppet Vision has been repurposed for this. Yeah, I feel like there's a little bit of sort of our statements and our predictions are a little bit sort of thrown to the wayside now. So sorry if this is a bit of an odd sort of
Yeah.
sidestep most of the way into the episode,
I
but
think it's I think it's so funny for people to get like 3 hours into this podcast where we're going like, man, I feel like this part of it is a little bit of a lazy retheme. And then now, like 10 seconds later, they're getting, well, we actually
I
can't make a statement because it came out in the
yeah.
time where we fucking recorded.
Tell you what we
I
are
think it's
gonna do.
very funny.
What we are going to do is talk about it in a later episode. There's going to be specifically about the coaster, and we'll
Yes,
have a guest, somebody who has written it, and then hopefully by that point, one of us will have got the chance to have written it. But
absolutely.
I think we're just gonna put the rock and roller coaster aside for now.
I
Um,
think we got so excited because when we started recording this episode, Rock and Roller Coaster had not come out yet, and we had not gotten many of the details about the ride. But in this interim period of us being like, we need to finish recording this episode, fucking everything came out. So, egg on our fucking face, Muppet eggs on our head.
literally like comedic timing. Making us look stupid. So thanks for that.
I
Good
like it.
parts.
Thank you, Disney, for consistently making me look like an idiot every time I launch any criticism towards y'all. I think it's very cool every
I
time.
I love it so much when you do that, Disney. So thank you again. And I think probably the best way to wrap this up now is just to go back to our actual topic of conversation. If we get
The Muppet.
head back to Muppet Vision, and
The
I
Muppet
think
Vision 3D.
Muppet Vision, as the French say, I imagine.
Mhm.
And I think because you had a pretty special experience of it, I think a really nice point to leave it on would be if you would like to tell us about the very last day of Muppet Vision.
Holy shit. Okay, yes, absolutely. First thing I want to say is that don't be scared that I have been at the closure of multiple Muppet things. It seems like I have gained this reputation within the community as being somewhat of a grim reaper when it comes to these things. I don't know
Yeah,
what's up with that.
the harbinger of Muppet death over here. You were there at the studio lot, and you were there on the last day of Muppet Vision. I
Yes,
we got a
indeed.
Muppet killer on our hands.
As much as I love the Muppets, I think it is a little weird that every time I go to a big Muppet event, it's on the last day of that Muppet thing existing. As Will said,
Yeah.
last day of the Henson lot, that existing, last day of Muppet Vision existing. I've been there. I would like to experience these things while they're still going, but it just kind of doesn't work out like that.
It's just a case of unfortunate timing. It's this day and age, so many Muppet things are just being like axed or thrown to the wayside. It's like, come on. It's just
It's
funny that
kind of
you're always there when it happens.
it's just like I think the unfortunate reality of a lot of these Muppet things closing is that it's kind of forced me and you to kind of be like, oh shit, Henson Lot is closing to the public. Guess I gotta get over there before it closes. Oh fuck, Muppet Vision's closing. Shit, now I gotta get over there.
Yeah.
So Will and I literally met because the Henson Lot was closing and we wanted to be there on the last day. Like,
Which I'm very grateful that we were, but unfortunately I was not able to make it for the last day of Muppet Vision, sadly. Um,
uh,
but it looked like so much fun, and I'm not in
yes.
a place to be able to tell anybody about it, but we got somebody who is.
Yeah. Oh my God. So I obviously, as I mentioned earlier in the podcast, I grew up going on Muppet Vision 3D. It was my favorite ride in the entire Disney parks. It was like my most formative piece of Muppet media. So when I heard that the Muppet Vision 3D, the entirety of the courtyard, all of that shit was closing, I definitely like this hit me so much harder emotionally than any other theme park thing. Like Will brought up freaking Dinosaur and all of these other rides that were like important to people who are into that shit closing recently. None of that made me emotional the way Muppet Vision 3D did. I think both of us can relate to that fact that Muppet Vision was beyond just a ride. It was something representative of all of Henson. We talked about it before, representative of the future of Henson that we never got. Well, Jim Henson's final project laid to rest. So it did feel like actually like an important thing to see it before it closed for all of those reasons. I know, Will, when did you do your trip out? Because like you didn't go on the last day, but when did you do yours?
It was early January. It's because I'd heard that it was closing, but we hadn't got the date yet, and so I just arranged the like literally the first like time I was able to go.
You're like literally, I need to get this shit now because we didn't know it could have closed like the next day. Like Disney is not very good at letting people know about a thing before something closes.
Yeah,
I think off
it was like a month or so in advance.
Yeah, I think often, and even with the opening of Rock and Roller Coaster, everything is kind of very loose with the way Disney announces shit. So I think a lot of Muppet fans were like, "Oh God damn, I gotta get there."
Mm.
So I, this is it's kind of a fucked up thing a little bit because my grandma recently passed of cancer, but during the time that she was alive last year, I was this is a little fucked up. A part of me was like, yo, wait, yeah, my grandma lives in Florida and she has cancer. I need to visit her. But that also means I can get on fucking Muppet Vision before it closes.
But what if I could combine the two?
Wait a second. And like, of course, I don't want to offend the rest of my family. I'm not trying to act like the closure of this ride is the same emotional impact of death as my grandma passing. Oh, sorry, shit, I was getting a call. God damn it. Who the fuck is calling me right now?
Well,
Holy shit. Okay, sorry. I'm gonna restart that. I'm recording on my phone and like I
no,
fucking
you're so good.
fucking oh my lord. But yeah, I don't want to offend the rest of my family by acting like the closure of this ride at Disney is anywhere the same as like my grandma passing and shit. But I was kind of like, you know what? If I'm gotta be there for the cancer shit, I gotta see this other thing that I care about as well. I don't
Yeah,
care, man. I needed to see Muppet Vision.
gotta balance it out.
That really shows the priorities of Muppet fans that literally I can talk
Uh,
about this more in the future, but throughout my grandma's whole cancer journey, there were like all the biggest moments during it. There was Muppet things going on. Like we were burying my grandma during the last Muppet Atlanta meetup. It's like all of these fucking things keep happening in regards to like the Muppet timing. It's weird.
My gosh.
Yeah, I just feel like my grandma's cancer thing really aligned with a lot of Muppet events in a weird way. But anywho, I had a good excuse to be down in Florida, and there was a part of me that was just like, you know what, I'm going, I'm fucking going. So I also had not been to fucking Disney in 15 years. I keep mentioning that, like it had been 15 years since I had gone. The last time I went to Muppet Vision before that, it was still fucking Pizza Rizzo's was still Pizza Planet. You know, like it was a long ass time. I very much had a lot of nostalgia, a lot of excitement around going to Disney again, just because like. Again, it had been 15 years. Now I'm an adult living in Seattle, just kind of doing my thing, bartending and shit. And to kind of have like a step back into my childhood in a way where like I had not really I used to have an intense love for like Disney theme parks, and it was something I was like obsessed with. But I would say that definitely kind of fell to the wayside over the years. But going back after 15 years of not going to Disney, I'll fucking fully admit it. I am way back into those parks again. Holy
Mm.
shit. I did not expect myself to fucking have as good of a time as I did. It did like, dude, Disney's fun.
Like you get swept up in it. Like I love me a good themed area. And like if there's one thing those parks do well, it's the theming. It's just like the immersion. And yeah, it's so easy to get swept up in.
Dude, it's like the way I do Disney is because like yeah, there's a few rides that I like had to get on. Muppet Vision being the exact like main one and the entire goal of the trip. But like when people complain to me about how like stressful Disney is, like all of the reasons as to why a Disney trip can be ultra stressful, I don't know, man. I just feel like get good, like get better at it. Like for me, I have no expectations. I just want to be like floating through these parks, relaxed as hell. I'm just stumbling upon rides. Like I went to fucking Epcot. I had all these Disney fans get fucking so mad at me when I was like, yeah, I didn't go on Guardians. I didn't really care to go on it. I just like yeah, I was just kind of stumbling around the park. I rode pretty much everything but that, and I didn't wait in any lines because I was just kind of like, yeah, this seems fun. I think I do Disney very well, and this was a very relaxing trip, despite it being like amongst the emotions of fucking
Yeah.
Muppet Vision. I think these Disney fans need to get better at going to Disney. Also, like this is a complete side note. Everyone complained to me about how much fucking walking it is. Everyone's just like, "Oh my god, your feet are gonna be dead. Holy shit!" Blah, 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 blah. I'm from the fucking West Coast. Everywhere I've lived has been hilly as hell. I'm sorry. And I've had the benefit and the luckiness of living in walkable cities. So it's like Disney walking ain't shit to the amount of walking I normally do in Seattle. I'm sorry. I had to fucking say that real quick. I get so annoyed when Disney fans talking about how bad the walking is.
Max when she goes 5 or more minutes without mentioning that she's from the West Coast.
Yeah, that's the thing. I know I do it an absurd amount, but it's like that specifically. I had so many people go like, "Oh my god, how are you feeling? How are your feet feeling after Disney?" Fine. They feel fine because, the West Coast has prepared me perfectly fine for walking at that place. But anywho, uh Muppet Vision 3D, getting there was the entire fucking goal. I went with my parents on the last day. It was very sweet of them to come with me. It was just like a really, and they wanted to see my grandma too. But like, it was just like a really nostalgic window back into my childhood. It's like, holy shit, I'm going as an adult for the first time in a very long time back to these parks with my parents. It just felt like a very, very nostalgic, beautiful thing. I appreciate them coming. And I wouldn't have been able to fucking afford it if I didn't go with them. Low key, I was gonna say that. Um, but my parents and I, we kind of made it like a little bit of like a 3-day Disney trip. We went for Muppet Vision, but we didn't just do Muppet Vision. But Muppet Vision was the goal. That was the entire fucking goal of being there. And I actually had no idea what to expect. I knew that there were certain Muppet fans like coming in to experience the last day. There was like a pretty big Muppet meetup a few months earlier, and it
Mm.
seemed like Muppet fans had been making the effort to come on the last day. It seemed like the Muppet Instagram community there was a lot of people like really committing to being there. So I was definitely very excited because it seemed like, oh shit, I might be around a ton of Muppet people. But I went to Muppet Vision. So the last day, there was a event being thrown featuring Steve Whitmire. It was like a 3 day event because the way that Muppet Vision ends, it has Sam Eagle going about like the glorious 3 hour finale. You got 5 minutes. There was a glorious 3 day finale where there was like 3 days worth of events going on before the actual closure of Muppet Vision on the very last day. And I went to some of those events. I went to like a fucking like a signing thing where Steve Whitmire and like Heather Henson and a lot of the people who worked on Muppet Vision, that was like insanely cool. I got to meet like a lot of the people who like worked on the production side of Muppet Vision. Very neat. Got a lot of signatures. I wish I had the poster with me, but it's at my parents' house. Um,
So cool.
it was like it was a really cool event. I will say, people waited 4 hours in line to get a signature from Heather Henson.
Damn.
I don't, I don't know, man. Maybe it's just because we're cool as fuck, but we've had the opportunity to hang out with Heather and not have to wait fucking 4 hours in line. Holy shit.
Yeah, that's crazy. But honestly, like, she
She's
deserves,
worth it.
she's worth it.
She
That's
deserved
what I'm
it.
saying. Diva.
Oh my God, dude. It was also just like really insane meeting. I forget his name. I'm so sorry if I'm for blanking on it, but there was this one dude who was there who specifically did so much production of work for the Henson Company. They were the ones in Muppet Treasure Island who made the scene of like Piggy being held by Kermit as they're like falling off of that cliff and shit. He was like a really like so many talented people worked on Muppet Vision, and to see so many of the people on the production side of it being there for the last day, it felt even more like, oh my God, emotional because holy shit, all the people who cared about making this cared to show up. Like it was very cool in that way.
Oh, that's really sweet. It's
It
a
was
like
very
a sort of like a coming together to sort of like mourn.
Absolutely, absolutely. It was like I think beyond it just being Jim Henson's final piece of work, it was such a crowning achievement of so many of the people who worked on it, and the fact that like Muppet fans packed a little ballroom in a hotel and people waited 4 hours in line just to like meet Heather Henson. You know that I really think speaks to how big of a thing this was for so many people. But for me, like I went on the last day, but I specifically wanted to ride Muppet Vision 2 days prior because for me, I have 3 days at Disney. I wanted to spend the first day just marathoning Muppet Vision because I knew the last day was probably going to be fucking packed, not just with Muppet fans, but with Disney fans. Like, I got to get my rides on this thing. Like,
Yeah.
because that's the thing, dude. It's just like, of course, I want to be in Muppet Courtyard. Of course, I want to like experience and take it all in. But you gotta fucking make sure you get your time with that. Like we've been to Muppet events where it's crazy. There's so many people. You like when you go to the Muppet museums during a Muppet event, you gotta get your photos with these puppets early because like it gets fucking packed.
Yeah, I mean, because like obviously everybody is gonna want to ride the last day, not only just because of like that sort of sending off thing, but a lot of people sort of like want to be like they want to have that as like a to just like say like I rode Muppet Vision
Yes.
last day, but like you wanted to take all of this in, you wanted to like you wanted to watch the show, you wanted to remember the show, have it like ingrained in your mind. So getting like a day
Yes.
or two early and like getting as many watches as you could in, I think was really smart.
I was honestly a little shocked. Again, not to judge other Muppet people and the way they plan this, but there is so many people on the last day who clearly loved the Muppets, but like barely anybody on like the 2 days prior. And I was at Muppet Courtyard like all fucking day, 2 days prior to Muppets Vision closing. For me, I'm like, yes, I understand the like the flex it is to be like, yeah, I rode Muppet Vision on the very last day. But to me, I'm like, that was not what was important to me. Like riding it on the last day, like that was like a cool part of it. But what was important to me was really getting to take in all of these things, all of these beautifully made Muppet details. Like we spent like an hour talking about fucking the like Muppets Take Manhattan and Emmett Otter references and all of that stuff, these subtle little details and little things that made the Muppet Courtyard so, so exciting to be in for us. I wanted to experience all of that. And I think if I had just gone on the last day and didn't plan it out like this, I don't think I would have been able to do that because it was fucking packed. And I'll get into that. But 2 days prior, before me riding Muppet Vision on the last day, I spent the whole day in Muppet Courtyard taking it in. There was barely anybody there. People showed out on the last day, but the days leading up to it, it was slow. But with it being slow, it meant that I could ride Muppet Vision over and over again. And I could also be in the fucking pre show area for longer. I could go to all of the little sites on set and like do all the like the small little Muppet details, spend time at Pizza Rizzo, all of that shit. Um, and it really was sweet having my parents there to experience it because I just was getting to run around and be so excited in my adulthood here that like they was like shout out to them for indulging me with all of my Muppet bullshit throughout my whole life. But
Bless.
yeah, like right, like the last few days beforehand, I'm trying to take in as much as possible. I'm marathoning the ride. Like I'm I'm finding myself a little bit shocked at the lack of people there. Cause like again, the fucking final day was huge, but the lack of people who were there in the days prior, it really made me feel like, yo, like the last day is like yes an important thing and it's like yes like a very like somber thing that it's like the very last time Jim Henson's final legacy is shown to the public like that I understand the entire like that's why I went to be there on the last day but like all of these Muppet fans, they all had the like privilege and opportunity to be there. If you have that privilege and opportunity, I wish more people were there in the days prior because, like, oh my God, the way that people showed out on the last day, you know, I feel like all of these people who on the last day complained about like not getting to ride it as much, complained about like the line being like 2 hours long to get on Muppet Vision. The pressed penny machine had a 3 hour line at one point. It's like, yo, if you cared about Muppet Vision and you wanted to be there on the last day, go the day, just like go the day before. I don't know. Like, if you already have the money and privilege to be able to go to Disney, like, fucking just go the day before. Come on.
I guess kind of a thing where it's like if they arranged it specifically just to be there on the last day. Like I was only able to do one day for when I went to go to Disney, and I was only there because I was lucky enough to be able to like get in because of a cast member friend. But like I do definitely feel like I got a good experience going on a day where it wasn't as busy, where I was able to sort of like have the sort of lay of being able to like walk about and take everything in without being like part of a crowd, being able to use the press penny machine, being able to ride the ride multiple times, being able to like pick a seat in the theater and not being just like sardined in.
Yeah.
I think it definitely elevated the experience being able to go early, but I understand people wanting to be there for the last day. But that kind of should have really come with the kind of acceptance that like maybe it's not gonna be your average Muppet Vision experience. Obviously, it's gonna be a bit more
Yes.
somber. It's gonna be a lot more busy. So like just try and get as much Muppet Vision as you can in prior to like them closing it for the final time.
Yeah, that's like exactly what I'm getting at is that like the last day was a beautiful experience, but there were so many people who felt like they did not get to experience Muppet Vision to the fullness of what it was because of how busy it was.
Yeah.
And I just personally felt like my experience going a few days before, where it was just like me and Muppet Vision and nobody else, that was the way to do it. And I'm very glad that I did that. And just like being in Muppet Theater, like we talked about this before, but like it's like the most accurate, most like well themed, most like that is the closest you will ever be to being in the real Muppet Theater. Like all of the details of like the Fozzie drama masks, and you have like all of the like the Kermit and Piggy sconcing on everything.
The little like
Like
bean cherubs as well.
yes, the bean cherubs. It's like it was a beautifully detailed theater. It was not like, when you go to fucking Mickey's PhilHar Magic, they just like, usher you into like the most bland movie theater room ever. When you go on any other show ride at any other park, you just kind of get sardine pushed into like a bullshit theater. Muppet Vision was not that.
Hate to say it, but you might be right. It's the same with like the DreamWorks Theater at Universal. It's just kind of a big room.
Literally.
But
Like
it
I
must be
think
said, it's just kind of a theater.
Muppet Vision, because like the Muppet Show existed and the Muppet Theater and stuff, they could have totally half-assed that. They could have just done the red curtain and been like, look, we're in the Muppet Theater, or we're just in some theater watching this. But no, they put in the full effort and detail to recreate the Muppet Theater in the most accurate way. I think we as Muppet fans, we're so blessed to have a space that was that hyper detailed to the original show. Because, like, I look at things that Disney has made recently in modern day, like that fucking Avengers campus in California. Like it's like just the most lazy fucking like office buildings.
It's a little,
It's
it's
very
a
just,
little bit MCU-y, which prevents it from being really fun and comic booky. Contrasted with like
yes.
the Marvel Land at Islands of Adventure in Florida, night and
Oh,
day, I'm
killer.
afraid. Night and day.
And like it's supposed to be just like it's a campus, so it's like everything's just like regular
Yeah,
gray
but why
fucking
would you want to
buildings.
do that? We're not here to
Yeah,
talk about
exactly.
the
Well,
campus,
but like that,
but
it's a
like
good piece of comparison to be like you have millions upon millions of dollars going into a brand new land, to just make it so fucking bland and unexciting and shit. But then you look at Muppet Vision, something from 30 years ago, something that had the creative hands of a Jim Henson and a Frank Oz and all of these people who like cared so much about their craft. And it's a theater. It's a simple little thing. It's just a theater, but they detailed that shit. They made it so accurate, so immersive and everything. And you look at something as simple as that versus what we're getting now, and it's beyond just like this fun ride getting closed. It's like this is the closing of something that spoke to an era where creatives were actually allowed to have their fucking like flex their full creative muscle and shit. Make things that were well immersed and well themed in a way that like was beyond just slapping a fucking few Marvel logos onto a gray building. Like they made fucking one of one unique Bean Bunny cherub sculptures and attached them to the theater. Like, what are we doing?
it's kind of indicative of this sort of lack of, I guess, willingness to go all out for some specific Disney properties. And just kind of like committing to just like a theme or a concept. Like I think one of the big things that people criticize Star Wars Galaxy's Edge for is
Mm,
its commitment to just having like sequel characters.
yes,
Like you go to a
and
Star
they're
Wars and you want to meet like Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader and everybody, but they're like, nope, we're
no, 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 no,
shoehorning it
no.
into this one specific point of time in the canon, and it's like that's not gonna do it for people. Like
And
people
like
want to
we're
go see Chewbacca, they want to go see like Boba Fett and like the Mandalorian, and so like just like make it a Star Wars area. Like don't have to make it just
no.
like a sequel era area.
You have to meet characters only from movie number nine.
You
You
can I
can't meet any characters from any other parts.
It's yeah. It's kind of
I
upsetting when you think about like that could have been the Muppets. That could have been just do like a generic like a LA city block and be like,
You
oh,
know
it's
what
like
though?
Muppets Boulevard.
I will obviously get into the full coaster details in another episode, but I think
Mhm.
some of the criticism that's coming out about Rock and Roller Coaster is that it is like such a downgrade in theming from Muppet Vision that was so hyper detailed. Like, obviously, we have not ridden it yet. We have seen a lot of the details come out online. I think that like they're putting in a little more effort than how I was talking earlier in the podcast, now that we've
Oh
seen
yeah,
certain details come out. But
for sure.
generally, it's like you have like it's the Rock and Roller Coaster, but now with Muppets in it versus a hyper detailed Muppet specific land in a Muppet theater directly from the show. I just think it's such a contrast that like Muppet Vision closing was a massive loss, not just for Muppet fans, but anybody who likes a hyper intense themed area that like really, really, really immerses you. Just using all the theme park buzzwords. Like I loved that about Muppet Vision.
Using all the like Imagineer speak.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Fucking
you got to ride it a couple days before.
yes, it was beautiful. I think getting to have that experience in Muppet Courtyard where it was basically just me alone. I think the most beautiful part of that was as the park was closing, as it got to like nighttime. Muppet Vision, the whole Muppet Courtyard cleared out. It was me and I think three other people, and then like the Disney cast members. And I spent like 2 hours, the last 2 hours of Hollywood Studios being open, just taking it all in, just like walking around, feeling that everything about it. Like when you're in Muppet Courtyard or when you used to be in there, you really felt like I don't mean to be like religiousizing Henson. I don't mean to be like talking about him like he's some deity, but you feel his energy in that land. You would feel all of like the fucking presence of Jim because every element of this place came directly from his fucking specific vision for the Muppets and all of the people who he worked so closely with and all the people who carried on his legacy in such a fantastic way. Like this whole courtyard felt like a fucking hug from all of these things that mean so much to us. And it was again, I keep saying this, it was beyond the closing of just a normal theme park ride. You could feel Henson's energy in every corner of that place. You could feel it in just the way that it was so cared for by the people who gave a shit about the Muppets.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I just think that the last day, like the last time I was there before the last day where I was taking it in all at night, got to be with the piggy fountain, got to just kind of sit there in silence and just hear the music that they made for Muppet Courtyard, seeing it for the last time because I knew it was going to be packed on the last day and that was truly the last time.
Mm.
But in my mind, my experience of being there alone, taking in all of it for the last time, just kind of sitting there, breathing in, and just fucking like experiencing that feeling of, oh my God, I'm in a place that was so heavily cared for by all these people involved in Henson and all these people who made the thing that I care about. It was beautiful. And it felt like my last like true like emotional experience with Muppet Vision. I'm very lucky that the Disney cast members let me sit around for as long as they did before they eventually kicked me out. I appreciate them. I think they could see me fucking sitting there tearing up and crying and just being like, fucking Jim and Frank, man. Fucking, they just cared about us so much. Fuck.
The cast members were lovely when I went as well. I think you get a sense of the folks who worked at Muppet Vision that this was something that they really like cared about. They were about the Muppet life.
I met multiple cast members at Muppet Vision on the last day who had Muppet tattoos. It was very clear that this area, the cast members within them, really cared about the Muppets. And so I had this experience of just being there on the last, like right before the last day, alone in Muppet Courtyard, taking it all in for the last time. And I think that was truly the most beautiful experience that I could have had. I think that making sure I had some time to just have that alone time and
Yeah.
not be overwhelmed by the crowds and everything, truly have this last experience. Like it felt like I don't care how crazy this sounds to people. It felt like some of my last rides because there was literally rides where it was me in that theater and me alone. My parents were off doing some other shit. No Muppet fans in Muppet Courtyard. Maybe there was like one or two people in the theater, but it was like me alone. It's like me being in a goddamn church by myself. Like, please God, give me the message. Give me what I need, the direction of my life. But it's me. The pews are the Muppet Vision seats. The fucking cross is the Bean Bunny cherub. And I am like taking it all and being like, thank you, God. Thank you for this moment of aloneness with Muppet Vision.
Like a religious pilgrimage.
Dude, I don't give a
It
fuck.
kind of felt like that. Like it
Dude,
felt like
I'm not
walking on holy ground.
yeah, I'm not religious. This is probably the closest experience I'll get to being in a
Mm.
church and feeling something is being in a fucking Muppet Vision, Muppet theater, seeing the Muppets, seeing all the animatronics, seeing the Penguin Orchestra, and feeling, yeah, Jim Henson was the fucking goat, the greatest.
Absolutely.
Um, but okay, all that to set up
I was
is
gonna
that
say, what was last day like?
the last day of Muppet Vision, I spent the day prior in Magic Kingdom, just kind of fucking around, having a Disney day. That night, I met Steve Whitmire and all these people at the signing. It was very cool. But on the very last day of Muppet Vision, I felt this like such a crazy feeling of anticipation and like nervousness that I had never felt going on a fucking ride or being at Disney before.
That's how I felt my first time as well. I felt like weirdly like sick. Like I
Dude,
spent so much time
yes.
stalling before actually going on Muppet Vision. Like I went to Star Tours before I wrote Muppet Vision. Like
Dude,
it just felt like such an undertaking. Like I was like, oh, this feels really significant. I'm scared.
Dude, abso-fucking-lutely. Because, like, yeah, I had gone a few days before, but on the last day, I found myself in the morning just kind of like taking my sweet time. I did not get there right at the start. Like, there was tons of Muppet fans who like rope dropped, got there to get on the very first ride, all of that shit. I was just like taking my time because it's like this was such an important thing for so many Muppet fans, for you and me. Like, it is a massive deal. Um, and just kind of having like the perspective of like, holy shit, I'm here on the last day. Like when I leave Muppet Courtyard tonight, this thing will no longer exist. Jim Henson's final legacy will be fully laid to rest. And so it definitely felt like, oh my God, like a part of me doesn't even want to go because I know when I get there and I'm done with this experience, Muppet Vision won't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Like that was definitely part of it where I definitely felt a little bit like, oh my God, this is gotta take my time, all of that stuff. But coming out of the fucking place I was staying at, I made it over to the Disney buses and shit. I was wearing my Save Muppet Vision 3D shirt that I was wearing in the previous recording, but now is in the fucking wash. But I was wearing the Save Muppet Vision 3D shirt, making my way. I was like talking to a few Muppet people and shit, like hoping to meet up at the courtyard and everything. And I was like just feeling this anticipation like deep in my chest, butterflies in my stomach type shit. And I had so many people. What really like set it off for me is like I was sitting around for the Disney buses and shit. And I I hadn't been in a very long time. I'm also like, again, I don't mean to fucking bring up being from the West Coast like every goddamn second, but like the attitude out here is a lot less like, people are very nice. And I think we don't get a lot of credit out here for being, as personable as people like are out here. I think we don't get credit for that. But it's like definitely not the same. Like when we were in Atlanta in the South and shit, people are so goddamn friendly in a way of just like always wanting to talk and like always wanting to like say hi and everything like that. So I very much have my like sometimes I have my social blinders on where I live in a city and I've lived in places my whole life where people don't really do that. But I was like sitting there in my Muppet Vision shirt and I had all these fucking Southerners just like with their fucking thick accents, they're going like, "Oh, honey, are you here for the last day of Muppet Vision? Oh, that ride, one of my all-time favorites. I am so sad that it is going."
That's really good. I really
Dude, it
like that.
it was so funny. It was just this group of like, it was like six older Southern people just being like, now I tell you that when they put that ride in there, it became one of my favorites because I could get out of the heat and get into the air conditioning. And like, they just talked my head off about their experiences with Muppet Vision for the whole ride over to Hollywood Studios. So that set me in the mood. That got me like so hyped. Thank you, all these old Southern people who weren't homophobic and just wanted to talk about Muppet people, Muppet shit. Like, fuck yeah.
Brilliant.
It was great. I got off the bus, Hollywood Studios. First thing I see, Muppet Skyline fucking box
Oh
gondola.
yeah,
That's what it's
the little
called.
sky carrier thing.
Yeah, the fucking gondola shit. I saw the Muppet thing and I was like, hell yeah, this is great. As I'm walking into Hollywood Studios, I'm just seeing an absurd amount of Muppet t-shirts. Just like An unreal amount of Muppet t-shirts where I'm like, holy shit, like there's a lot of fucking people here for Muppets. I don't think I expected it to be as crazy as it was. Like I knew it was going to be a pretty big meetup. Um, I cannot understate how fucking packed Muppet Courtyard was. Like when I eventually made it over there, it was filled to the gills. Like we were taking up every inch of space in that entire thing. Um, I don't know if people saw from the photos. I don't think you could tell super well, but the area of Muppet Courtyard, like it's like it is pretty small. It's not like a very big. If you haven't experienced it, like I don't think the photos do justice to how small it is.
Mm.
It's fucking tiny, and so just cramming all these Muppet people in there was kind of a hard undertaking for the Disney staff, and I'll give them some fucking credit for those cast members because they did a great job handling the hordes and hordes of people that I don't think they were necessarily expecting. Um, a few fucking key things that I want to point out. The amount of people that were there, I don't think I've ever seen Muppet Vision ever use their extended queue. Because like it's a high capacity ride. It was a thing that like people, it was a theater with like 100 something seats. So it's like it was very easy to pump people through that. It was so busy that the line extended far into fucking Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. And the fucking extended queue was not only open, but like you had Muppet people all the way to Rise of Resistance. Like it was fucking long. And people waited 3 hours in line to ride Muppet Vision. Like that,
That's
like
crazy.
dude, that's why I went a day prior because I
Yeah,
was like, I'm not waiting. I love this shit. I ain't waiting 3 hours for it. Come on,
that's ridiculous.
dude. It
I
was it
respected the
was fucking
dedication,
nuts.
but geez.
And what I found was like obviously so many Muppet fans, like just an absurd amount of Muppet fans. But I think what the difference was between the previous meetup that had happened at Muppet Vision versus the one that happened on the last day is that it was half like hardcore Muppet fans and then half like Disney Parks fans who were there less about the Muppets, but because this is such an important piece of
Yeah.
Disney Parks history. Um, it was absurd the amount of people that were there. So many incredible, kind, wonderful people that were there, though. Like, I met this wonderful, I forget her name. I'm so sorry about that, but this school teacher who was going around with her handmade puppet and, like, just almost made me cry. Like, it was just so kind and so sweet. And just seeing the creativity of so many of these Muppet fans, people brought out like this dude brought out his Gonzo rep. He was dressed like Michael Eisner and brought out a Gonzo replica, which
I have
was,
seen like some videos of the Gonzo.
dude. I took some photos with it, and like right after I took photos with that Gonzo, Disney was like, "Put that shit away! Like, dude, get that shit away right now."
I did
Um,
hear about that.
Same to like Miles Muplicas, who does really great like Muppet replicas.
Mm.
He had his Rizzo out, it was really crazy getting to see Steve Whitmire like
Yeah, I
use a
saw that
Rizzo
video.
puppet. That was fucking crazy. Seeing that live was nuts. But they also made Miles put away his shit. It was just like every person who brought out a Muppet replica, Disney, and I kind of get their rules, but Disney was like, put that shit away now.
Cut that shit out
Cut that shit
immediately.
out.
How dare
Come
you
on.
have fun? How dare
How
you do
dare
something
you?
fun?
Like that was kind of the vibe a little bit. Even
Yeah.
though I don't blame the Disney cast members themselves for that.
It's like their
But
job, but still, like,
yeah.
come on.
But still, we are having some whimsy and some fun and shit. But like, yeah, last day, the feeling of being there with so many Muppet fans who were there to experience Jim Henson's final legacy, like it was almost like indescribable in the sense that it was just you're riding this joy and this elation the entire fucking time. Like I thankfully was there. I didn't stay the entire day on the last day. I left halfway through because I had to catch a train. But
Mm.
that was actually good because I was able to avoid all of the worst lines for Muppet Vision. I was
Yeah.
able to ride it a few times on the last day, which was like I feel very lucky about. I met our buddy Leela in line, which was super cool, and then we ended up
Hey.
like hanging out later in the future and being good friends now. Like that's awesome.
Yeah.
But I feel very blessed that like the time I got to spend at Muppet Vision, like, you got to when you wrote it with all these people, like it was a very different experience than writing it the few days previously or even in my childhood. Like, it's a theater. People are like
Yeah.
generally respectful in the sense of like not singing along. It's like, when you're in the haunted mansion fucking like stretching room and you have that one asshole who's being like,
Saying
and
all the fucking
now,
dialogue,
yeah,
saying all
who's
the
fucking,
dialogue, speaking over the fucking ghost host. Come on.
yeah, literally. But I will say, usually I'd be annoyed about that on the last day of Muppet Vision. The amount of people in that theater who were just yelling out all of the lines, they're like cheering along so loudly. Like, I understand how annoying that would sound, but I promise you, like, being there on the last day, having so many people excited, laughing at every fucking joke, knowing all the lines, it was awesome. I actually like loved it so much. It was a very different experience. And I'm very glad that I had my like emotional last moments where it was just like the silent theater and like getting to watch Muppet Vision. But watching it with so many people who were that like it's like at fucking Comic-Con when they like announce something and the whole crowd reacts at
Mm.
every single fucking thing. That's how it felt.
Yeah, it's like it's like a once in a lifetime type thing. It's like that's not your average Muppet Vision. Like recordings of Muppet Vision are not like all people talking the whole way and cheering through it. So like I feel like
Yeah.
allow them one day. Allow
Dude,
them a
it
day where
was
you can have like a Marvel opening night reaction to Kermit.
exactly. And like I understand why I saw some criticism later that people were like frustrated that they went on the last day and they were like, I just wanted to experience the ride like for what it was without everyone like going crazy. And I'm like, you kind of
Yeah,
brought
like
that on, dude. Like,
yeah, it's not really what you signed up for, is it? You're at a huge, like, massive probably one of like the biggest gatherings for like a ride closing, like in the park's history.
yeah,
Like,
genuinely.
and just like,
Like,
come on. What did you
I
think was gonna happen? Respectfully, what did you think was gonna
respectfully.
happen?
Also, it's just like again, not to make this a whole Disney theme parks rant, because I hadn't gone in 15 years. I'm not an expert on these places, but I just feel like a lot of the things certain people complain about is just like you're just not. I just think you're bad at doing the parks. Like I just think you're
Yeah,
bad at like experiencing shit. Like on the last day, Pizza Rizzo's, he was fucking packed, like packed to the gills, and trying to get a pizza was very hard if you were waiting in that line.
yeah,
If you mobile ordered, you'd get your pizza in 3 minutes.
yeah,
3 minutes. And that went for every fucking food spot at Disney. I was like shocked that so many Muppet fans stood in that Pizza Rizzo line the whole time on the last day to get a pizza they could have mobile ordered in like 3 minutes. And for me, I was like, yo, what you guys, what are we fucking
I guess it's for
doing?
like the sort of the experience of it, but at the same time, it's like, peace out.
Insane. It was fucking insane. But, getting to be there on the last day with so many people who gave a shit about seeing Muppets Take Manhattan and Emmett Otter references and stuff. I remember literally going up to that fucking like display area with Leela and just being like, oh my God, this fucking
Mm.
Emmett Otter with Don't Kill Jill and Lil. Blah, blah, blah. Like it was crazy. And like you got to see Muppet fans from all over the country and shit. People really showed out. I was blown away at the amount of love and effort and the amount of community that was happening. People were just passing out little trinkets. Everybody wanted to like say hi and talk, and it was like just a beautiful experience to be surrounded by so many Muppet fans on the last day. I think what really spoke to that about me though it spoke to me about all of that is that in that pre-show area when you see the Jim Henson poster of him as a Muppet from the Country Trio like looking down as like so we talk about religiousizing Henson, they literally have him as like God in there looking down on
Yeah.
you like come on.
It's a little heavy-handed, but I think it's beautiful.
I think it's fucking beautiful as well. And the amount of I saw multiple times when I was riding on the last day, these people who were like Disney fans noticing the Jim Henson thing and going like, huh, who is that? And like a Muppet fan going, that's the puppet version of Jim Henson, because this is the last like thing that he ever made and everything. And those Disney fans understanding the like importance beyond it being a Disney ride closure. And it was just this kind of beautiful symbiotic thing where like all of these people who weren't there specifically for the Muppets ended up leaving with so much like love and respect for Jim Henson and all of his work. And I think like, good job, Muppet fans. You guys did a great job on that last day getting people to understand the importance of Muppet Vision.
Yeah, get them onto the cause. But
I
like there
stole
was
so many glasses on the last day. Just want to
as
say,
you should, as you should, as you should. But I think so,
literally.
like you said that you left on a train halfway through the day, which like you had to get out of there. But I think one of the most beautiful things that came out of that last day of Muppet Vision is a video that did the rounds, and it's the video of like almost like a vigil being held at the Piggy Fountain, like just after the last show had gone in. And just like this whole crowd of people all stood around the Piggy Fountain singing Rainbow Connection. That was
Ah,
seriously, like I was a mess of tears what on that day watching that video. I could not I couldn't
dude.
believe what I was seeing, but I was so overcome with just like the beauty of it all. Like it was seriously so wonderful to see.
I think for me, like, I'm honestly glad I didn't stay for that because I think I would have been a fucking wreck. Like, I'm
Yeah.
glad
No,
I
oh
saw
yeah,
the
I would have been
video.
utterly destroyed.
Dude, I got to my grandparents' house and I saw the video and started crying. So I was like, you know what? It's probably good I wasn't there in person. I would have been a fucking just such a mess.
Yeah,
But
maybe.
like, yeah, last day, and speaking on that, like I got to see Heather Henson on the last day of Muppet Vision. It was so cool that she was walking around. She was wearing a bunch of like necklaces made by Science Factual Co., the guy who did all the Muppet Vision memory stuff.
That's factual
Um,
code.
they were wearing a bunch of their stuff. Very cool. But Heather Henson was given the last ride on the last day. She was the last person to enter the Muppet Theater on the last day of Muppet Vision. Um, Two things with that for me. One, the Disney Corporation, I don't think should get credit for that. It was the cast members on the last day who did an
Yeah.
incredible thing. Shout out to those cast members. They were great for that. And two, the fact that on the very last day, the very last person to ride Muppet Vision was Heather Henson, Jim Henson's daughter. Like, I have chills right now. How more beautiful of a send off could that have been?
Yeah, it's really special, and I'm really glad that sort of events came together for her to be able to do that. I think the cast members having to coordinate that day in general, they're all heroes.
They're
But
all fucking
like to
incredible.
make sure that she got to be the last person to go in for the last ride, it's so special. Like, and obviously so kind of cosmically significant. Like, I just feel like the way that the whole last day was handled was so wonderful and just so
Yeah.
it's like a fitting way to send off such a beautiful attraction.
I felt very like to agree with that fully. I think that the way the last day was handled by all of the cast members that were there, all of the people who showed up, it's like everyone understood the assignment. Like everybody understood what
Yeah.
was important about the last day, what was like significant about being there and experiencing the last thing Jim Henson ever made. You know, I felt so at peace and in community being surrounded by so many loving, like lovable weirdos who enjoy the Muppets. That's my people right there, is people
Yeah.
who are just, creative and whimsical and all there because they give a shit about something that was such a beautiful impact on the world. It was really like, again, I keep saying this, it's beyond just the closing of a normal theme park ride. It's beyond any like interest that I have within Disney park spaces. Like I enjoy Disney parks and stuff,
Yeah.
but it's the feeling of being there to experience Jim Henson's final work on the very last day of it being open with Jim Henson's daughter. It just all, as you said, I think cosmic was a very good word to describe it. It all just kind of cosmically aligned, where I myself got to experience all of this. So many other Muppet fans got to have this wonderful, wonderful time. Jim Henson's own family got to experience the last thing. I felt very at peace. And I think that's the thing. As exciting as it was and as nervous as I was going into it, because it was such like a hyped up thing, I just felt calmness and peace the entire last day. It just felt so like I'm looking around. There's a scene. There's a scene in regular show where Pops is looking around at all of the regular show characters at like one of their last parties together, and he starts crying. He gets emotional because he's like at peace watching all of his friends grow and like watching all of these people be in community. Maybe it's for the last time, but like just feeling the luckiness that he got to experience this with all of these like these people that he cares about. And that's how I felt on the last day. Just looking around, watching all of these people make friendships, all of these people cry together, laugh together, everything. It made me so emotional. And I felt like I just got this beautiful window into like the emotions and the lives of so many people who are touched by Jim Henson's work. And it really showed me the impact of how important Jim Henson's legacy was, but everything Henson did was so, so, so for humanity and for the love that we have for one another, the connections that we have as human beings. Jim Henson's final legacy was laid to rest, but I'm very, very, very lucky that I got to experience it. And I appreciate Will for letting me rant about the last day for a minute here.
No, of course, it's a beautiful perspective to have, and like it's truly like gotta be such a treasured memory for you. Like I'd love hearing about the details of it, and I've loved hearing this story. Um,
Dude, it was worth it. It was definitely worth it. I'm lucky that we've got to have awesome Muppet experiences together. I'm very lucky that we're gonna do more Muppet shit in the future. But like, I will never forget being there on the last day and to experience Jim Henson's final work on the last day it was open to the public. I would not trade that for anything.
yeah. Well, with any luck, I'm hoping to get this out on the day that Muppet Vision closed. Um,
Ooh.
7th, 1 year ago today, hopefully. If not,
Wow. Holy
like,
shit, it's been that. Oh my God, it's already been a year. That's crazy.
yeah. And I think, yeah, now that we're in this sort of new era of the Muppets' presence at Disney parks, I think it's a good idea to sort of reflect and remember this beautiful attraction that once was. And like, there's still evidence of it at the new Rock and Roller Coaster, but like, nothing's ever going to beat Muppet Vision.
We lost Muppet Vision 3D. We lost Jim Henson's final legacy, but at the very least, the seeing Muppet fans be so blown away by the impact of it being in such community over the Muppets and Jim Henson's final work, it really just spoke to me that like the energy, the love, all of the things that Jim Henson cared about and the what the Muppets represent, that's never going away.
Absolutely.
Despite this beautiful representative thing of all of that closing, that feeling is never ever going away as long as Muppet fans still fucking watch the Muppets.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really beautiful note to leave it on.
Dude, wow. What a time we just had. This is maybe our longest episode.
It's
Just
it's definitely
yapping
one of our
about a theme park ride.
definitely one of our most stuffed, packed episodes ever. Like one of our most just like absolute jammed with information and like talking points episodes ever. I think it might break the record for longest so far, like easily, especially with this like extra little disclaimer added because of like our
Yeah.
our poor timing with the Rock and Roller Coaster. But and we will
That's
talk
on
about it
Disney.
one
That's not on us.
we will talk about it one day. We have a plan for our next episode. I think we're gonna keep it close to our chest though. But it might involve
Yes.
some audience participation. We do
Yeah,
love
I
a good
would
audience
say.
participation episode. We love getting you guys involved. We love rattling off your questions that you leave us on the Instagram stories. But I think we're gonna try and do that a little bit early because I feel like I always feel bad whenever we do that because I always post the story like just before we start recording. I think
We
we're gonna do
we
it
do
like
it
on the
live.
yeah, I'm gonna do it on the day of our recording and then just let it sort of like go throughout the whole day so that we can hear a little more of you because some of you guys like missed the window for it and I feel bad
Yeah.
about that.
I
But
am
yeah,
very
so
excited. Look out for a poll soon. And
yep.
definitely respond. We want to hear your responses. This episode cannot happen without you, our Muppet Moment audience.
Absolutely. So keep your peepers peeled for that. But we will say goodbye and thank you so much for listening once again. And we will see you again soon. Bye bye, everybody.
Bye, y'all. Ah, see ya.